Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Labour Social on Labour Social. And tonight I'm joined by Phil Morehouse and A. Thompson.
Yo.
You spelled your name wrong on your name thing at the bottom, Aid.
Have I?
You've spelled it with an O. I keep doing that and getting into trouble. Anyway, we should be joined in a little bit by Ollie Bowler Hatman, who should be putting in an appearance, and Josh from the Movement Forward, who'll be talking about Stop the Tories Vote. But in the meantime, we're going to be talking about what's been going down in the last 24 hours, Phil, which I believe has ruined your schedule for the whole
completely.
week.
I don't actually know whether I should do another video on what's going on in Scotland as well, because Humza Yousaf has made a night and balls up of this. Complete. I don't actually know what's going to go on now.
No, because he said he's not going to stand down. He said he's going to have an election.
What he should have done,
a general election.
All that's happened is, right, so he's dropped a couple of policies. Maybe he had good reason to, but it doesn't matter. He's dropped these policies. The Greens are understandably annoyed. So they were, talking about maybe cancelling this agreement. And then just so that they didn't do that, he said, well, you can't leave me, I'm leaving you. So he cancelled it himself and says, and he actually said something like the agreement has met its purpose, like it's no longer needed. We don't need you anymore. And I'm thinking, if you were to have a diplomatic themed opposite day, it would be Humza Yousaf's press conference yesterday. So what he should have done, all he had to do, surely, I don't know what the behind closed doors discussions are going on with the Scottish Greens, but all I would have thought he'd have to do is say, look, I'm really sorry about this, but we needed the Westminster government to be providing some of this infrastructure as well. And they haven't been, even though they promised they haven't been doing that, they could have blamed it on the Tories and said, look, but we understand your anger. He actually said today, we understand your anger. And he could have said, we understand, but I still want to work with you on things. And then at the very least, they may have still supported him as First Minister.
Yeah.
Whereas now, because he has made them look ridiculous, because he's basically said, I don't need you anymore. You go away. And so if the Greens were to support him, what would it make them look like? It made them look like chumps. So they've come out and said they're not going to. They're going to, and I don't actually know what's going on. I've now heard that Labour are going to issue a confidence motion. I don't know what the hell that's about. Like, don't you only need one? I don't get it. To be fair, I have to be a bit careful because not all of the Holyrood procedures will be the same as Westminster ones, of course. In fact, very many won't. But the situation is he needs one opposition vote so that he doesn't lose. And it's like, well, it doesn't, unless there's a rebel amongst the Greens, it's not going to be the Greens, the Scottish Greens. It's not going to be the Conservatives. It's not going to be Labour. It's not going to be the Lib Dems. He's left with Ash Regan, who is his leadership challenger, who, when she couldn't win, decided to go off and join Alba. So, and she has already come out and said, well, I'd be delighted to vote for you, Humza BL China. Unfortunately, I need you to be a bit more transphobic. So it's a mess.
Well, talking of transphobia, is it Rosie Duffield MP? Labour MP?
She's whining again at the moment.
She's just said that Rishi Sunak is nicer to women than Keir Starmer is.
Yeah, she's
hello, Josh. Josh is here. He's a P.
Hey guys.
Hey, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're not moving. Oh my God, that's terrifying. You're just staring and your image is not moving. Why is your image not moving, Josh?
Because OBS is playing up, apparently.
Have you been possessed?
Yeah.
Quick, Aid, make a joke. Break the ice. Aid's on mute. Oh no, he's not.
How are you? There as we're waiting. What happens if SNP collapses that a vacuum Labour can fill? Not really. No, I've had a look. I saw someone posted some provisional sort of polls for if there were a Holyrood election. It'd be mad. Holyrood election is not supposed to be another couple of years, so it'd be absolutely insane if we ended up with Scottish elections before the Westminster elections. But they seem to I probably can't find it now. They seem to think that it would. No, I'll have lost it. If there were to be a Holyrood election, I've never come across this person. I don't know how accurate it is. It'd be a right old mess. Yeah. The SNP And the Conservatives, ironically, would lose seats. So the Conservatives don't really want to be pushing for an election. So that's why it was a little bit weird that they pushed for this confidence vote, because they would actually lose. Labour, the Lib Dems, and the Scottish Greens would probably gain seats. So you could argue all of those parties have an interest in the elections happening sooner.
Yeah.
But the Conservatives and the SNP, absolutely not. So I don't know why the Scottish Conservatives have issued this confidence vote motion, unless they thought it was going to be to put the Greens under pressure, because they might have thought, well, but it wouldn't. It would actually give the Scottish Greens more power, because what would happen is Humza Yousaf would be gone, and because they
just like Josh,
seats,
Josh has just disappeared again. He keeps appearing and disappearing. Because
they'd win more seats, they could actually form part of a credible. They could form a part of a credible coalition with the SNP. You could actually have a formal coalition rather than just the alliance that we've had up until recently. It would give them more power.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question here? So I'm not as up to speed on Scottish politics as I probably should be. So what is it the actual issue with him? What has brought this about?
What happened was they had, when they formed this alliance, they agreed, just like the Welsh Labour and Plaid, they agreed a common manifesto. And two of them that have now been dropped was to reduce carbon emissions effectively by 75% by 2030. So they've now said, in line with the rest of Britain, that's now going to have to be 2045. And they've cited
45 or 35?
45. Because we have been dragging the Westminster government, the Tories have been dragging their heels on it.
Yeah, but 2030 to 2045.
Yes, precisely.
It's a big jump.
It is.
Pushed it back for 15. Okay.
Yeah. And the other one was there were mandatory annual carbon reduction targets that are also going to be scrapped.
Bon Hatman's here. Hey, Ollie, how you doing, mate?
All right.
You were Josh a second ago, and now you're Ollie.
But even then, because the Scottish Greens there was no knee-jerk reaction. In fact, they were going to have a big meeting about it next month. There was nothing imminent about this. I don't know what's been said behind closed doors. Maybe Humza Yousaf got the impression they were going to bin the agreement.
Yeah.
But I really thought...
That's why I've heard they were going to bin the agreement, and he was preempting it.
They hadn't decided, and even if they had, it was better for the SNP for the Greens to bin the agreement, and for Humza Yousaf just to be really apologetic and say, sorry, the Tories have screwed us over. Really sorry. We're fully in favour of this policy and all the rest of it, but but at least be diplomatic about it.
Yeah, we've got a John Mortar as well. A wild John Mortar has entered the chat, who appears to be in the children's BBC broom cupboard.
You've got to be a certain age to remember that.
You do have to be a certain age. Have you got Gordon the Gopher there, or are you more of an Ed the Duck kind of guy?
Oh, Ed the Duck every day. The
Duck. Roland Rat was the one. You could have had Roland Rat actually, because like a lot of people say he looks like Rishi Sunak.
That was ITV though. That was the Light Entertainment Channel. Yes, it wasn't the BBC. BBC was Gordon the Gopher.
I remember Gordon the Gopher. I thought Roland Rat was on BBC as well, but I can't remember.
He was.
I only remember
Otis. That's right.
Oh, right. Okay.
He moved to BBC.
Who moved to BBC?
Yeah, they took the BBC became Roland Rat's. But I can't remember. I don't know. This was years ago when I was a young wee nipper. But
I like this idea that like Roland Rat is like a freelancer and he moved
to the
BBC. So he renegotiated his contract. He's like, yeah, they're going to take care of me. Completely funded. Let's focus on profit so I can just be myself. Like,
yeah, I like that. How you doing, Johnny? You had a good week? Better week than Chris Phil.
Oh, good, thank you. Yeah, I was just listening in to Phil's piece about the Scottish situation at the moment. I'm finding fascinating at the moment. So I want Phil to keep talking because that was quite good, actually.
Sorry, Phil.
I honestly, I really
Rachel.
don't.
Hi, Rachel.
I don't know what he was thinking. I actually thought, because Humza Yousaf was not considered a heavyweight when he became leader. So there was a lot of people thought, he's not going to be the leader that Nicola Sturgeon was. and they were right. But I thought he didn't do too badly to begin with, because the SNP were, it was almost threatened to split apart. They have a huge problem. Obviously, the SNP's most important policy is independence of Scotland, and there's no plan for it. There isn't a plan. They didn't like Nicola Sturgeon's plan either. And so Humza Yousaf had to have that really awkward conference, and he got through it, and he was all right, and people are backing him. And I'm sure there's lots of internal strife, like in any party. But, as far as the public, as far as I can tell from around here, people are sort of backing him. And then he goes and puts his foot in it yesterday. And now he's facing apparently 2 confidence votes. I don't know how that works. I don't know why you have 2 confidence votes.
Is there a risk with this that, and again, I must stress that I'm nowhere near an expert on Scottish politics, but is there a risk, I would have thought, from a marketing, from a branding perspective, that they lost the guy, who was the chap before Nicola Sturgeon?
Alex Salmond.
Alex Salmond. He was rightly or wrongly removed. There was a lot of allegations about him, right? Yes. So he was removed from power. Then Nicola Sturgeon was removed from power. Her husband was just arrested.
Well, she stepped back just before it was going to become known that there was a police investigation. Because at the time, it was all really weird. She was saying, I'm a bit tired. It's like, talk stupid.
But then, I mean... Look, Phil, they dug up her fucking garden.
Yeah,
it's not good. Like,
so they found the motorhome.
They found the motorhome hidden under the patio.
So there's like sexual assault allegations with Salmond. Then there's her. They're digging up her garden. Now there's this chap, and he's being seemingly like people are making moves to kind of ostracize. Like, is there a risk from the SNP, whom I quite like from what I've seen of them and their policies? I think they've been a largely positive influence on British politics. But is there a risk that this is going to be the 3rd chapter of sort of soiling their legacy, and that after this, people will be like, they haven't got their shit together?
Well, what's happening is they're in the same situation the Conservatives are in, and unfortunately, they're choosing to use the same tactics. They've been in power for a while. I mean, like the Tories, actually, they haven't had, they've actually never had really a majority. There's always sort of been minority. But they've been in power. They've formed the government for quite a long time now. And naturally, people start to, fish around and go, well, maybe the grass is greener. Labour are coming back. In Scotland, they're never going to go to the Tories. Although people will always say things like, we don't vote Tory in Scotland. Well, actually, about a quarter of you do. But they're never going to form the government. So for the bulk of those voters, what they're fishing around for is another progressive party. And Labour are now starting to look more plausible. They're not running away with it. The SNP will still, in the Holyrood election, still probably win the majority of seats. Difficult to say with the Westminster elections. But, so that's natural. It's natural that people are going to start to do that. And because Nicola Sturgeon was so effective, as soon as she went and you started to have all these allegations, they ran them for a very long time before anyone was even charged. The investigation has been going on for 3 years?
3 years.
We found out just over a year. It's taken all this time for anyone to be charged. It's absolutely insane. But then Michelle Moan's going on for even longer. And it's so inevitably they're under pressure. But they're like, any party, they're doing exactly what Labour did at the end of their time and what the Conservatives are doing now. Instead of unifying and presenting that, and reconnecting with voters, they're just having their own internal squabbles. Only Humza Yousaf has decided to spread the squabble love by sticking 2 fingers up at the Scottish Greens, the people whom he relies upon. Now that because they did have exactly half the seats after the Holyrood elections, they had exactly half the seats. Now they have 1 fewer because Ash Regan left.
Yep, and that's whose his entire career now lies on.
Well, and that's also assuming there are no SNP MSPs who are planning on being a bit rebellious.
Oh, that's it. There's 3 people who he's relying on. So it's Ash Regan, first of all. And remember, when she left, he said words which will come back to haunt him. Oh, no big deal. It's no big loss for the SNP that she's left.
And she's surprisingly saying, trans care for kids gone. strengthen up safety for women. Let's fuck the trans people, and I'll give you all the votes you want.
That's what she put out on
Fantastic.
Twitter today.
Yeah.
That's the deal she wants to cut with.
Oh, yeah.
Hamza. That's
Yeah.
what she wants.
Yeah. Oh,
And
they want to go full
I think he's
Albert.
going to do it. I think if he
Well, you
wants to
say
save
that.
himself, I think
Well-
he'll have to do it.
Won't he
It's the only way
lose
out.
support from some of his own MSPs if he does that, though?
Yeah, I think he will, and I hope he does, because
Yeah.
you know
Because the SNP have put an awful lot of political
they did.
collateral into, their translate. I mean, they've made an arse of it in some ways,
Yeah,
but they've put a
But-
lot on the line for this legislation.
but they started when it was all fine.
Oh,
So
yeah.
back in
Yeah,
26.
all the toxicity came out.
Yeah, the toxicity they were doing what everybody else in Europe was doing,
Yeah.
was the self ID. Even Theresa May was like, let's go self ID. It was all, and then in a few think tanks in Tufton Street in the US, they were going, oh no, we've lost the gay rights. Let's start with trans and work right through to abortion. So they start on the transies, us, and then it'll be trans adults, then it will be gay rights, and then it will be women. And it's just, that's their roadmap, and it's working. So when they started, even the Equality and Human Rights Committee in London were like, we're pro-trans, and the Scottish Equality and Human Rights Commission, we're pro-trans. Suddenly London wasn't,
Mm.
and it all started with Boris.
How
Yeah.
depressing is it that this is such a successful movement for the alt-right world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That all you have to do is find a subset of people
Yep.
that you can sell to this group of people as though like, oh, you're better than them and you should be fearful of them, and they're the target of all of your vitriol and blame and hate, and it works every time.
But it
Yeah.
gets people on the left as well. That's what blows my mind. And the same with anti-Semitism. You get people who are very much on the left who
Yeah.
suddenly you get a couple of drinks inside them and they
Yeah.
start going off on one about how the Jews will run the world.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell? Why are you coming
It's
out with this
because-
right-wing crap? And they've
because it's
completely
not right-wing.
conflated their
Yeah,
hate
it's-
of capitalism
Yeah.
with a race of people. And then they've conflated their, desire to be seen as a feminist with hating trans people. And it's like,
Yeah.
the
not-
cognitive
it's-
dissonance
it's-
going
it's
on
not
there.
left or right.
insane.
It's not to do with left or right. It's just to do. Some people. It's the age-old thing. When someone is like on the extreme wing of politics, whichever it is, so they're completely out of kilter with most people, but they can't accept that. They think that everyone must agree with them because it's so obvious their worldview. And so they have to believe in conspiracies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's right across party, because we've all been discussing, we had Keir, adult human female, saying that out loud, which was the sort of the Posey Parker dog whistle, and you thought, okay, well, it's the Ming vase, he's trying to throw a bit of red meat to the gender critics. We had Rosie Duffield, obviously, and then we've got Rachel Reeves, and now we've got and then it was Wes, who used to work for bloody Stonewall, and now he's like, oh yeah, trans women aren't women. We've had, we expected that from the Tories, and now this week we've had the Shadow Ministry of Justice say it. You're not even in power
They
yet.
haven't said that though, have they?
She just, but
What?
no.
Unless I'm wrong. What they've said is they've done the usual thing, which, as we discussed, is absolutely
Yeah.
dog whistling.
Yeah.
Is they've used the correct half of the argument and therefore let others
Yeah,
follow an implication that
Yeah.
they haven't actually said.
Yeah.
So the idea is, I am convinced it's the same strategy they're adopting for Brexit, for everything. What you've got in the Labour leadership, you've got, as you said yourself, Wes Streeting worked for Stonewall. So you have got people who are not anti. I can't say that none of them are, but they're not anti-trans people.
One of the
They're not
one of the founders of Stonewall is massively anti-trans.
Oh, Matthew Parrish and Simon Fanshawe.
Fanshawe, yeah. So it is possible to be gay and anti-trans at the same
Oh
time.
yeah, there's a lot of it about.
Cognitive deficient. I've got a bunch of super chats to get through.
Hey,
Thank you very much to Puninator. Urgent question: where's the bowler hat, man? Puninator always makes this joke, and Emma Price put £2 in as well, saying Puninator, he is so losing credibility. I'm guessing you're talking about Ollie not wearing your bowler hat, man. Sorry. And then we've had another one from Joe Lefty Boater, who says, Rachel, I've never seen Star Trek. Who do I give my trans card to? because Jo is trans and she's feeling terrible now. And we just had an absolutely massive £100 super chat. Thank you so much to Ivan Ambrose, and who says, and they will target disability rights. Thank you so much, Ivan. That's really generous of you.
But
thank you. I really appreciate it.
I can't remember who I was talking to today, but it's like, remember Brewster's Millions? You had to spend all the money and get it to zero. I think that person who came out with the idea is advising Rishi. He's saying, we need to come in with 0 votes. So let's attack trans people, then the LGBT community, then black people, then disabled people, then people on low incomes, then people with mental health, then Gen Z. Let's keep attacking people till there's nobody will vote for us. So, and then he gets £1 billion for doing that, i.e. the India deal. So let's get the Tories to 0. That's my working theory.
The thing is, they do that anyway, and they usually get away with it because these are not groups. Many don't vote in large numbers at all, and when they do, it tends not to be conservative. But what is baffling over the last few years is how the Conservatives have attacked basically everyone.
Yeah,
I can't actually think they're attacking themselves now. They run out of, it's like, it's like when you're starving and then you consume your own stomach. The hot's there. It's absolutely insane. They've basically alienated everyone.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're now chasing after the sort of voters who have properly abandoned them. The sort of the gammon votes. They've completely gone off that.
Yeah.
And you just think, but these are the ones who are not going to come back to you. Like, even if Reform UK did stand candidates down, a lot of them won't come back to you. But if Reform UK do stand as they say they will, they're not coming back to you. Why are you chasing?
Well, also, it sort of taps into this whole silent majority thing. I think it's like with the whole people that shout the loudest are actually, they're quite a small number.
Yeah.
So when you design your entire policy portfolio around appealing to the GB News, Talk TV, Gammon lot, the St. George's Flag guys, like, you might appease them. You might get yourself some calm, reactive press maybe for a week or something like that. But the great irony of the whole silent majority thing is that it's actually the inverse of that, which might sound like we're all talking in kind of an echo chamber, like we speak for the silent majority. But actually, it's true. It's borne out in polling data. Like, most people have progressive attitudes. Most people don't. Like, it really comes down to the vote split problem, which will hopefully be solved by proportional representation in due course.
Yeah. One thing I've heard from, shall we say, a friend on the inside that I know, he's been said that Tory MPs are being briefed that when you're seeing these polls, it's all right because the don't knows are going to vote for us. And that's what they're being told.
And they're obviously no good with a calculator, because the thing is, those don't know. Because, for example, if they look at an opinion poll, opinion actually work on that basis. Yeah. They work, and they're actually being very generous. See, the YouGov MRP polls, unlike their normal weekly polls, the YouGov MRP polls are also trying to take account of don't knows. But opinion are being extra generous to the Tories with it, and opinion still have them getting pounded. There aren't enough of them.
Yeah.
You look at the don't knows, there aren't enough of them. So I can well believe that Tories are being placated by saying, oh, but if you actually analyse the peasants online, they're not analysing the polls properly. You see, we've got experts. I can get that. But they really are very, very bad if they're doing it, because they should be looking at how many don't knows and going, there aren't very many of these.
I wonder what sort of weird, back-patty, dodgy deals are being done in Whitehall at the moment in terms of like if you were a Dominic Raab or a Jeremy Hunt, right, and you're a signed-up, card-carrying member of the Conservative Party, you feel like you've put in your years, your time and stuff, and now you're coming up in a marginal. What sort of deals are being done at the moment to make sure that you're actually parachuted into...
Rob's off. He's already got himself a nice, lucrative job lined up. Oh, yeah.
There's 100 MPs who aren't going to be standing in this election. About 67.
Jeremy Hunt, as far as I know, is still standing. There were rumours he would step down because he can't be arsed having his arse kicked. But as far as we know, that would actually be quite tricky now, the Chancellor having to announce that he's stepping down.
But he stepped out. He put 100,000 in, didn't he, of his own money?
Yeah.
Over the last few years. I mean, I imagine most of that was when he thought he would have a decent chance of winning.
Well, we'll talk about Tories losing all their money. Well, right-wingers losing all their money in a moment. But first, we've got a super chat from Punninator for the bowler hat. Thank you. Thank you. Might as well ask this with the super chat. If you could pick one person to survive the general election, who is it? My pick is Stephen Flynn, as we disagree on independence, but he seems like a good one. Now, I think I want everyone in Labour, well, except for Rosie Duffield, to survive the GE. But let's say, is there anyone in the Tory party who you would not be so concerned if they won? You wouldn't mind.
Some
if
I would
they
actively
survived.
sort of want to win just for the sake
Yeah.
of being a stronger voice within the Conservative
Okay,
Party.
who would you go for, Phil? You're allowed one.
Yeah.
Tobias Elwood would be top of the list.
Tobias Elwood. Okay, Aid. Who would you say from the Tory party?
Similar, I'd go for Tom Tugendhat.
Okay, Tugendhat.
Yeah.
The game they used to play in the boarding school.
Mm.
Yeah. Ollie, who would you save?
Purely for the, I think, the civil war factor to who's going to provide the most entertainment in the upcoming Tory civil war. I'd love Penny Mordaunt to somehow hang on there, because I would love like Penny Mordaunt and Kimmy Badenoch to be going like head to head in like the absolute slugfest that is going to happen after the general election.
Who would you like to survive, John?
Well, I would have said I quite like Charles Walker because of the stuff he was
He's
saying
going
about
there.
Truss
He's on.
when everything just collapsed around, and he just, oh my God, the words he came out with were just glorious, and I was absolutely agreeing with every word he said. But I think he's stepping down.
He is stepping down. He's gone. He
So
announced that a while ago.
I think I'd like to see one of my local ones here, Mark Francois, stay, because I think the actual shit he pulls in the party afterwards when they're all just batting the crap out of each other, I think it'd be glorious. So just the entertainment.
Yeah, there is entertainment factor for like,
and
God, I
he
wish
will
they
win
could
his
stay.
seat because he's Wickford, and Wickford is very gammon. I'll probably just...
Wickford, oh my God.
Rachel, who would you like to save? You can pick someone who's already been said if you want, because it's a bit unfair.
No, Caroline Noakes.
Okay, yeah.
Pro-trans, gives Baroness Faulkner a kicking on the panel, gives Kimmy Badenoch a kicking on the Women Inequalities Committee. Big trans ally, meets with trans people, supports them. Very One Nation, almost Liberal Democrat, kind of more than Tory, really, but really, always been really good. So, if you're going to rebuild the party up, it would be somebody like, it would be with people like her.
Cool. Okay, well, we're at the heart. We're at 9:30. So should we start talking about our favourite news, or the most interesting, the news story of the week for each of you? So have a think about what it might be.
Title. You needed like a title to whoosh out. Like
I do, don't I? Like news story of the week. I'll do that for next time. I'll make a note while you're telling me your news story, Aid.
I'm happy to, but could you just for this week, because I was expecting a title, could you just like sing the jingle or something?
It's the news story of the week.
Boom.
That was pretty good, with feeling as well. Okay. I will go with, what should I go with? Lee Anderson's fake, well, I think it's fake polling. So I don't know if anybody saw this, but like I think it was on Wednesday, he published a thing. He said, this is a survey of 1,000 voters in Ashfield. And you can see that it looks like everyone is actually swinging towards reform. And it was something ridiculous, like 65%, 68% of people going towards reform. And I was like, hang on a second. Because we're all politics junkies. I'm sure we're all like familiar or vaguely aware of the polling in that part of the world, like the red wall vote that swung towards the Tories for the 2019 election, and how recently it's sort of swung back towards Labour. So I was like, I'm sure I've seen something for Ashfield recently. So I combed through Twitter, and there it is. It's like Labour gain from Conservative Party. Like it's not swinging towards reform. So I was just like, mate, I can knock up a Google Sheets as well. So I made like my own fake version of it also. And like the formatting, the colors on it are identical. So it's almost like he's just typed in the figures that he wants. And he's like, oh, look at this polling. So yeah, that was my favorite one.
I seen News Thump did a story. Lee Anderson reveals incredible new polling, which shows 100% of Ashfield residents in his house will vote for reform.
They had
Okay.
he had another little thing in the news this week as well, because a Labour candidate popped up in his constituency, and it's the done thing that you inform the sitting MP. And he's going, "Oh, Labour didn't inform me. They're absolutely disgraceful." And Wes Streeting said, "No, we emailed you. Well, we've got the email here. You just didn't read it, you monkey."
Bad.
Love it. We got another super chat. Thank you very much to Alan Poe for the super chat. What happens to Sunak if the Tories lose the general election, but he keeps his seat? Which is probably going to happen. He's in
That's
quite
the
a
most
safe
likely
seat.
to happen. That's the tidiest. It's a trickier question to ask if they win the general election, he loses his seat. Nothing. Like they can do what he likes. He will probably announce he's going to resign. He may or may not leave Oliver Dowden to it while he personally resigns immediately as being an MP, or he could hang on as a caretaker leader until they select the replacement, then stamp down, or he could be a backbencher like Ted Heath for years, but he won't. That's easy. It's no problem. John Major, when it happened to him, he just went to watch the cricket.
I have a question. How is Rishi Sunak in such a safe seat when he's actually quite a new MP, isn't he?
Well, because David Cameron, to his credit, one of the vaguely sensible things he wanted to do, he recognised there was a complete lack of diversity. Now, to a Conservative, diversity of background is not a thing, so you have to understand a bit of blinkers there.
They all went to private school.
But he nonetheless recognised that there were sort of old, pale and stale type of thing. And so he actually said, we need to get more ethnic diversity, at least, as well as the gender balance better. And he pushed it, and not just tick box exercise. He said, don't just give them the crap seats. We want them to have the safe seats as well. So the likes of, Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman, people like that, are a result of that policy.
I see. Okay. That makes sense.
Okay. Ollie, do you want to tell us what your news story of the week was? Is it an international one?
It sort of is, and it sort of follows along with right wingers losing money.
Yay! We always love that.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the Tesla stock.
Ooh.
Absolutely tanking this week.
Yeah.
So much so that the shareholders were calling in Elon Musk himself to an actual meeting. And when he was continually being asked, "What are you going to do about like the price of the stock?"
But didn't they just vote to give him loads of money?
Yep. 50 billion.
What? Why did they vote for that?
Want to send to
Elon Musk?
But they must have known that that Tesla was losing market share, and the fact that he bought Twitter and started behaving like an idiot.
He's laying what 10 was it? Is it 10,000 workers from Tesla?
Yeah.
On this is the best part. Apparently done by a lottery. Just drawing names out of a hat. If you were pulled out of the name, you were gone. People didn't even know they were getting fired until they couldn't get into the building. They were just going to work as normal. Then suddenly their card wasn't working. So that was, horrific from Elon Musk, but that's not too surprising because we saw that happen also at Twitter. During this meeting, of course, he's being asked about the share price. What are you going to do about it? So he keeps on saying the continuing promise he has been making for at least since 2019 now, that he's going to come up with a way to create an EV that costs about $25,000. Which, if he can, congratulations, you've just created the most, cost-effective, car.
I hate him, but I'd love it if he did that.
Yeah, well, he's not still gonna do it, and to try and pacify his stockholders, he told them that it's going to be moved up and it's going to be done this year. So mark your calendars. At some point this year, we're all going to be able to buy a very, very cheap Tesla. And after announcing that, the stock price bounced back up once again. Elon Musk lying to try and save himself, and he's done this.
People believe it. Don't
He's done this about the Cybertruck, the cyber lorry
NFTs.
thing that he was doing.
NFTs are the ultimate proof that the value of something is based on what people are prepared to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, the art world has known this for a long, long time. You know, you
Yeah,
could
the
just
Tesla
claim anything with
Roadster.
that. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Tesla
meant to be
girls.
coming for I don't know how long.
Yeah, it's still not here.
You
People
know,
put down deposits though. I saw a fantastic truth on Truth Social that was shared. I wasn't on Truth Social, but it was shared around on Twitter this week. And someone called Donesco Patriota. So I don't even know if it's like a real name or whatever, but if this is true, it's hilarious. I've been dreading this post for a while now, but I finally must admit I've lost a substantial portion of my life savings investing in the hashtag DJT, which is the Donald Trump Truth Social stock. I was unable to continue the slide and sold the majority of my stake this afternoon at $26.55 per share. This is a disastrous fall, resulting in a loss of nearly $450,000 of my retirement savings. I'm now forced to return to the workforce at age 76. Please, family, learn from my mistake and do not put everything into one stock.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets his 1.2 billion out.
Yeah.
And he's gonna. I mean, it might work against.
Is there any
him.
sympathy? Any sympathy for this guy?
No.
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 I'll tell you the reason why there's no sympathy there, right? Is if you're going to put your money into Donald J. Trump's stock, which is basically a reflection of him, although through the conduit of Trump Media and Truth Social.
Yeah.
It was marketed as your confidence in him, like around the time that he needed all of that money, those sacks of cash for that big bond payment. If you're going to put that much of your retirement money as one investment, like rather than spread out across a portfolio, that to me suggests that you are fanatical about Donald J. Trump,
the
which
thing is
means
as well,
you probably got relatives and friends who have warned you against this. Like, don't do it. This is a con man. Look at Trump University, Trump stakes. Look at the golf courses. Look at the denying the election, and then it turns out that actually.
Yeah, but they don't believe any of that, Aid. Like they think that this guy is the second coming of Christ.
But consider if what you're saying there is this person says they lost $450,000, so they invested much more than that because they've just said they sold their stake, so they got something back.
Yeah,
they even got the majority back. I don't know. But they must have invested a lot more than that. And you might think to yourself, okay, someone invested $1 million if they're a multimillionaire. This person clearly is not if they're having to return to the workplace.
Yeah.
So they must have had a lot of money for their pension fund.
Yeah.
But
this is what
also,
I mean.
did you hear about the Cybertruck recall as well?
That was surprise me.
So Cybertruck, if you press the accelerator, there's a little sleeve that goes over the accelerator pedal to make it look more futuristic, more cybery. Turns out that is not properly attached. And as you are pressing the accelerator pedal, the sleeve will slide off and get wedged, meaning that it will now permanently accelerate. So Cybertrucks have all now been massively recalled.
There was an electric car. I don't even think it was a Tesla. It was something else where that sort of happened. I can't remember if it was America or this country.
No, it was this country.
Yeah.
And it was Craig from Big Brother, the winner of Big Brother Series 1. He got trapped going down the M62 in his Jaguar, and he couldn't slow it down. Yeah, because
I'd heard someone
took over the speed.
And yeah, they just had to, it was like speed. They just had to, the police just had to try and facilitate them driving like a madman down the motorway, so they ran out of
I think the electric cars, one of the issues with them, and I've got to say, look, all things being equal, we've got an electric car and it literally costs £3 to fill it up with energy and drive it to Liverpool. £3, okay? Yeah. Or we can take the family on trains, and once you're like 2 years old, you've got to get a full train ticket, don't you? You don't get kids' train tickets anymore, which will cost over £400 for us to go from Durham to Liverpool on the train.
I have an electric car. It cost me £8 to charge it and get 200 miles for £8. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So, but they are too reliant on software. There needs to be some kind of mechanical override. I don't like pressing a button for the handbrake to go on.
Have you heard the other thing about the Cybertruck?
I want to feel the brakes go on. You know.
Yeah, but it's the quickest car I've ever owned. I love it. It's so quick.
It's so fast.
Yeah,
So
they're very
fast.
fast.
Yeah.
No
Well, it would
gears.
be.
No, talk
Well,
of the
exactly.
devil. Talk of the devil.
Did you hear about the other thing that happened this week as well? That's been discovered now as well about the
What?
Cybertruck.
Oh, no.
So turns
It
out,
rusts. It's rubbish.
if you take it to the car wash or you even wash it with water,
Yeah.
you completely brick your car.
You brick it.
Yep. It just completely deactivates it. It
There's-
fries all the internal
if it
circuitry.
rains?
There's so many problems
use
with it. Like, even on a basic level, the engineering is shite. I was watching a video a few weeks ago. I think I was telling you, Graham, about it. And they were doing this demo with lots of electric cars and the boot coming down. And they put like a courgette and a carrot in. It's like, ooh, something in the way, back up again. Something in the way, back up again. Tesla, wallop. That's your fingers gone.
La guillotine.
This so freaks me out.
Stupid.
It so freaks me out.
Just the basics.
The guillotine model.
Brad W, thank you very much for the super chat. If you'd like to donate to Trump's campaign, don't forget to tick the box titled Grift Aid. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-bam.
Hey.
Jokes are coming thick and fast tonight.
The best Elon Musk tweet I saw this week, I've seen a lot of like serious tweets slagging him off, but this was the best one. Elon Musk tweeted out, "Believe what you see, not what you're told." And someone replied to him, "Okay, I've been told you're a genius, but I've only ever seen you behave like an effing moron."
Excellent response. John, can we come over to you? Have you got a story of the week for us? Have you got something?
Yeah. Well, I sort of have two, but one's just very brief. I mean, one literally is, I think, the Great British Railways idea as a policy from Labour.
Fantastic idea.
Brilliant,
Love it.
brilliant idea. It's stealthily being sort of renationalised anyway, to a degree, but I think Labour are going to take it next level. Needs doing. Brilliant. I can't say any better than that, really. Also, just a very quick plug, stopthetories.vote has gone this week with all the PCC elections. And pretty much any election across the country that could be happening, we've got data now, quite a lot of data, where we can hopefully knock Tories out of everywhere we can.
Yes. Well, we'll have Josh. Josh is coming on at 10 o'clock, so he'll come and talk. He'll take a slot. He'll fill your slot, Aid.
Oh, cheeky.
And he'll be talking about Stop the Tories. John, I don't know if you can see the feed on YouTube, but I've just put the poster that went out for one of the one of the Labour candidates. Keir Cousins has put out this fantastic retro poster saying British Railways back in public hands, and it's really cool. I think it's really cool. I think we should take back the Union Jack from the lunatics who were running around this week on St. George's Day, having a little mini riot and punching police horses and things, because that's what we do on St. George's Day.
Yeah.
We best of British. And there's an interview with a terrifying woman who said that there's no tea anymore. We used to drink tea, but we don't anymore.
We're a coffee nation
We
now.
just drink coffee.
Yeah.
No
Which is
nursery
awful
rhymes
news.
either.
I went
Should
to
be
the
confused
cupboard
with
to make
me.
myself a cuppa, and all my tea bags had disappeared and turned into coffee.
It's the coffee arty.
I would confuse the hell out of her because I don't like coffee or tea.
Yeah, but we used to be a tea nation. Now we're a coffee nation. That's just
I
awful.
mean, everyone I know still drinks tea.
Yeah, and we've had coffee just as long as we've had tea.
I'm the only person I know that doesn't drink tea.
I think we've probably had coffee longer than we've had tea.
Yep.
I've no idea.
Coffee's from Northern Africa.
The thing is,
tea
though,
from Asia.
tea, we have traditionally drunk a heroic amount of tea. I think it was put down to the fact that we often, bizarrely, got away with plagues in Britain and Japan because of tea consumption. I think it was sometimes put down to.
Oh, right. Well, it was beer consumption as well, wasn't it? Because back in the Middle Ages, everyone just drank beer.
Yeah. Well, we had
because
to.
it kept you
Sterile
alive.
water.
Yeah, everyone who drank the water from the river just died. As you would today if you drank any water from pretty much any river in the country. But if you ferment wheat and create a drink from it, then hurrah.
Yeah.
It's all good. Apparently kids used to drink beer. That was the drink.
Otherwise you would just never
They still
live
do,
childhood.
if you believe the study that came out this week.
Oh, yeah.
English kids are amongst the most alcoholic in the world.
That's all right.
I strongly suspect that's not true.
What's
Really?
what's the legal age for children to drink alcohol in this country?
18?
No, that's for buying it. You can
13.
drink
For
it much
buying
younger.
Isn't it?
You can drink it in a pub with a meal when you're 16, but you can drink it at home when you're 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you go to the continent, I know this
That's
is
the
everybody
law.
says it, but when you go to a French or you're out in Italy or France, the younger kids are sipping red wine and stuff at the tables.
Yeah, that's the thing though. In like France and Italy and places, they sip wine, whereas we knock it back by the bucketful.
Yeah, but you've got to do to ease up Mother Brown.
I remember my sister getting drunk for the first time. She was 3. We were at a christening and everyone got up to dance, and she went round draining all the remains of the drinks that were left on the tables.
At 3?
Got absolutely
That tasted
smashed out of her
horrible.
brain.
Yeah, but did it do her any harm? What does she do now?
Votes Tory.
She's a lab technician at a school.
There you go.
That's all right. But she doesn't vote Tory, does she?
Do you know what? I don't actually know. I don't like to ask.
Ooh.
Because
That
we
might
did
be when it
grow
all
up in a
went
Tory
wrong.
household. We grew up in a Tory household. I don't actually talk politics to my sister. I'm pretty close to my family. So
Well, me and my 2 brothers are very left wing in our politics. But my dad was very right wing in his politics. But yeah, it's just one of those things. You grow up and you think, because you're at a point, aren't you, where you think that your dad knows everything, and then one day you sort of realise maybe he's full of shit. Maybe. Thank you very much to Alec Burrett for the super chat. Before we drank tea, we had hot chocolate houses. How could we have a hot chocolate house? How would it stay together? There'd be no. Oh, you mean houses where you drank? That can't be right. Hot chocolate would have come from the New World. That's even further away than Asia it was at the time, because at least we had the Silk Route.
I believe it. I believe in miracles.
yeah.
Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much for the super chat. I have a 30 fluid ounce tea mug, a pint and a half. Tea is king. Thanks for the super chat, Johnny. I could not drink that much tea quickly enough before it went cold.
Maybe it's got a little heater in the bottom, immersion heater.
It could be. You never know. And Duke Vengeance is saying, I stew my tea with sugar. Proper builder's tea. Fair enough. And Claire Scott has dropped in the super chat. Thank you, Claire. Your first super chat. That's very kind of you. Everyone's talking about their tea now and how they like the full fat cacao.
I used to like tea.
Coffee.
I used to be a tea drinker, and then I had children, and then the 4 a.m. starts.
What? And you preferred the taste of the children? What?
No. Then the coffee.
Baby
is
tastes
essential.
best. I know that because I watched the movie of Snowpiercer.
I drank tea when I was a kid. I drank tea when I was at uni, and then when I started working in defence, and I was doing 20-hour days, and we were sleeping all over the world, and you eat coffee. You needed coffee to stay awake. Tea just didn't get there.
Just aside. Although
I feel like this about tea drinkers. I'm like, you don't get it.
No, but pound for pound, tea has more caffeine in it than coffee. It's just that, but it diffuses in the water, doesn't it?
But do you double dip?
dissolves.
I know loads of people who use their tea bags twice. Do people do that?
No, well, I don't.
Jesus, wept. What?
I mean, come on. I know there's a recession on and there's a cost of
I know
living
people
crisis.
take it out, put it in a little saucer for the second cup, and
it wouldn't work for me. It wouldn't be strong enough in the second cup, unless I was giving it to an enemy. Someone I didn't like.
Unless people have
It
been
was such
like,
a British passive-aggressive way of passing on your
just
dislike. So I'm going to give you a really, really badly made cup of tea.
This poor weak cup of
people
tea.
may have just
weak tea.
grown up like in poverty and that and just carried on the habit. There was a millionaire saying one time that when he has a shower, he has a bucket in the shower because he grew up poor. So he has a bucket in the shower and he uses that for his first flush of the toilet after his shower.
Do you know what?
Of his upbringing.
On
He's ridiculously wealthy.
It's not an exact sort of parallel, but I grew up on council estates and now I'm in a slightly more comfortable position. We have an all right house, quite happy with it, but my favorite room in the whole house is this dingy DIY shed that is basically kitted out like my bedroom when I was like, 18. Now you can read into that as you like. Like, is that arrested development? Is that some sort of psychological disorder? But it is like I remember reading a biography about Kurt Cobain where they were like, he made all this money and then he bought this like Courtney Love wanted this big mansion in Seattle, so he bought the mansion, but he was sort of embarrassed by it, and he ended up living in like one corner room in the edge of it. And
in a racing car bed.
In a what?
A racing car bed. A bed that's done like a racing car.
Yeah.
So that
but there's
joke
something
fell
in that.
flat,
Like
didn't
it's like if I made a lot of money, I think I would still just have like one room that I would be the guy that flushed like with a bucket of water. Like I get it. I totally understand.
No,
do you
I'd
have one of
a big
those?
house.
Do you have
would
one
love
of
a big
those?
house.
Do you have one of those barrels of homemade brew in the corner, Aid? You know that you brew your own in the corner.
No, one of my few extravagances is my Beer 52 subscription. Which, to be honest, is only really still there because I haven't worked out how to cancel it yet.
Yeah.
That's how all subscriptions
the
get
mind
you.
is willing, but the flesh is weak. Alan Poe, thank you very much for the super chat. £3 super chat, just so Phil can get a hot Vimto. Best ever drink. Do you drink hot Vimto, if you're ill?
If I have a sore throat, that's the only time I really have hot drinks. So I will
that makes sense because
like,
Vimto does taste like cough medicine. So yeah okay. I'll go with that.
Hot Ribena.
I don't like blackcurrant.
Oh man!
Do you know what? My first date with my fiance, we went to this cafe thing. So she's getting soft drinks, and she said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Anything but blackcurrant." And so, but in her head, what she had was blackcurrant, so that's what I got.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
Well, when I was an underage drinker, it was Pernod and Black we used to drink when we were 15. You know,
Pernod.
That was a long time ago.
Where were you an underage drinker? Where was that?
Well, I can't remember. Was it Pitt the Younger was Prime Minister? I can't remember which one was it.
Pernod. It's so like. I mean that does fit. That feels so wine bar for like. Underage drinking.
It was so we getting all the local pubs around here in the countryside. There were the young farmers who were Pernod and Black. You know,
I just think of like underage drinking. I think of like bottles of K cider, super
Nice.
White Lightning.
When I was working at the
Lightning
student
was
union
evil.
bar, it was Snake Bite and Black.
Oh, of course it was.
Snaky Bees, which I absolutely hated because, you know, when you're pouring a drink, you sometimes get with a drink on your hands. When it's beer, it's not a problem because beer isn't sticky. But like blackcurrant is sticky, cider is sticky, and these rugger buggers will come down at the athletics union and they'll put these snaky bees on their heads, and I'll be like, "Oh, I've got to clean that up, you bastards!"
Well, the worst stuff I used to drink when I started going to Ibiza was I was in a drinking competition. I drank a bottle of Avocar and was in bed for about 2.5 days throwing up.
Oh God!
What is this? What is this palate? This Pernod and Avocar palette.
I was miserable. I was trying to kill myself before I transitioned, right? So it's just, what's the worst alcohol?
Wow.
Alcohol.
Would you pick something that tasted good though, and then like you drink more of it, it would work? I mean,
I think half a bottle of Ouzo once nearly killed me in Greece.
Somewhere out there watching this, it's a couple of transphobes who are going like, so Avocar. I'll stick everything.
It's our kryptonite. It will get us, you know.
Ouzo does actually taste very nice, but it is lethal.
Oh, yeah. Lethal.
Questionable Absanity has dropped £2 in the super chat. Thank you very much for Rachel's hot chocolate joke. There you go, Rachel. Thank you very much. Someone liked
John heard it.
Alec Barrett, London's first coffee house. Chocolate House was the Queen's Head Alley near Bishopsgate in the City of London, opened in 1657 by a Frenchman. There you go. Thank you very much, Alec. And then finally, Johnny Copperhead, QPR 4, Leeds 0. Take that, you Yorkshire so-and-sos.
Yeah,
going to enjoy a mug of Yorkshire Gold.
I don't know what Ollie feels, but I hate Leeds as a football team because they're sort of like it's the same reason.
Go on, say it.
Ollie's about to explode.
I hate them because they're all what?
No, I was going to say that it's a similar attitude they have to Man United. So I didn't like when I was at Manchester. I absolutely hated Man United because they're a bit like there's like three sort of sports teams. There's Man United, Leeds United, and Ferrari, and their fans seem to think they have this God-given right to win. And they take it very badly when they don't. Only Leeds haven't won for a very long time. But they have a real chip on their shoulder when they're not winning. And Leeds haven't won my entire life. So they're really, Leeds fans are not. They're not the calmest people.
No, although Everton did have a very good result this week. We won. We won against Liverpool in the Merseyside derby for the first time in years. Only the second time since 2011, and we won 2-0. And it looks like that one game has pretty much saved Everton from relegation, and also
Doomed Liverpool
to not win the Premiership this year, which I'm actually not that happy about. I'm not gleeful about that because it means that Man City will win, and they do not deserve to win because they're a bunch of cheating bastards who should have like 1 million points taken off them.
But I mean, to be fair to Liverpool fans, they are sort of what's the word like? They don't get really uptight when they don't win. They just enjoy it when they do win. Most sports fans are. They just want a good game. They like to win, but there's just some
in a
groups
weird
of
way,
fans that just like
in a weird way,
all or nothing.
In a weird way, it's a bit like politics, isn't it? But dragging this back on point, because you do get sports fans who are just in it for the game, the sportsmanship. They can appreciate and understand when they lose. They're like, well, you win some, you lose some, and then that's it. And then there's some others who wrap it around them like it is literally their social identity.
Yeah.
Whether it is, I'm a reform voter, I'm a Tory voter, I'm a working class Tory, I'm a this, I'm a that. And then once you get into that point where you're so devoid of self that you wrap this entire thing around you like it's your identity, then it becomes like any challenge to that is an affront. And whether that's like a football firm who are going to go out and start fights over it, or whether it's it's a super similar thing, isn't it?
It's footballification. There is a word now, isn't
right.
Footballification.
But I think Aid was talking about the politicization of football.
Well, I mean, you got
footballification of politics.
I'm just saying, there's a parallel between the two.
But are we going to have the fighters then? Because you like in Green Street, you had all the fighters for the football teams. Millwall down against West Ham. So are we going to have go down the pub with the Conservatives with my chair with the nails through it against the Labour?
They won't do any of that. They don't get dirty themselves. They'll just send a butler in to do it. go and tonk that gentleman on the head.
I do find that a bit sad. I mean, when I was a kid, I was a choir boy, and we used to sing at weddings. You get £1 for singing at a wedding. We also used to sing at funerals as well, and you get 50p for singing at a funeral because obviously we couldn't fleece people of the same amount of money you can for a wedding at a funeral. And there were quite a few of them where it was literally the only thing to say about someone was they supported Liverpool, and we'd all have to sing "They Never Walk Alone." That was all they had about their life. Do you know what I mean? And I always thought that was a bit sad. It was, it was great that they had a hobby. It was great that they had an interest, something that they were into. But is that all you want people to remember about you? Oh, he really liked Everton. Oh, he really liked Manchester United. Oh, he really liked the Tories.
So there's two things just to touch on, and then I'm going to run. The first thing was I saw an Instagram post by the lady who really talented comedy actress. She wrote and starred in Motherland.
Yes.
Who am I talking about? Sharon Horgan?
Julia
Hogan?
Davis? No.
Motherland was actually the massive transphobe. What's his name? Graham Linehan, and his wife, who was the sister of Peter Serafinovich.
Oh man, we're talking about a different thing here. Hold on.
Motherland.
Sharon Horgan.
Sharon Horgan.
Yes.
Yeah, I think was she in
That's
it?
I think
was she also in the Line of Duty?
Catastrophe as well. But she wrote. So she was on the Instagram earlier on in the week, and she wrote a really touching eulogy about her father, where she was like, sorry I haven't been on here very much recently. She went to an awards show, and normally she goes with her dad to this thing, but he passed away. And then she wrote out this thing about him, and it was nothing to do with football or even what he did for a living or anything. It was literally just about him. And I was sort of reading it. I was just like, that's what I want my kids to write about me. She was like, he well, you would have liked this. He rocked a hat. He rocked a hat to fuck. And he said, he did this, and he loved tickling his grandkids' tummies, and it was all family kind of wholesome stuff. I was like, that's really nice, man. Yeah. So there's that. And then the second thing that this sort of yields, that this brings to mind, is an interview with Chris Rock that I read years ago, where they were asking him about his success and whether his kids were proud of him and what it means to his family. Does it change the way that they look at him, etc., etc.? And he goes, if my headstone, when I die, if it says, "Here lies Chris Rock, comedian," he's like, then I've failed. He's like, that's not what he was like, if it says Chris Rock, beloved father and beloved husband, he was like, then like, that's cool. He's like, everything else is second. He's like, that's my priority. That's number one, P1. I was like, yeah, man, like that's
Chris Rock, punch in the face by Will Smith.
Yeah, I mean, now I probably will, like, maybe he needs to like decide which one out of like 0.2 or 0.3, like work out some bullet points, Chris. But
Be awkward if they're next to each other as well.
Yeah, I thought between Sharon Horgan sort of touching Instagram and Chris Rock's thing, I was just like, yeah, man, that's what's important, right?
Many moons ago, I interviewed Jimmy Pop from the Bloodhound Gang, and one of the questions I asked him was what he would like on his gravestone, and he said, "I'd like Jimi Hendrix." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because then people might visit it and put some flowers down."
Fair.
Very good. Very good.
Listen, man, I'm gonna have to run. So
yeah, sorry, Aid, but don't worry, you will soon be replaced by Josh. I think Josh is going to come along.
Tell Josh I said hi.
I will.
Hello to everyone in the live chat tonight, and I'll catch you all soon. All right, cheerio.
Cheers, Aid. Bye.
Sorry to double up, everybody, but I'm going to have to go as well because I've got a stupidly early start tomorrow. I've got to take my son to a uni open day, so and I've got to be up at 6.
All right, well, thanks, John. We're doing the shift, the turn,
short
the
but
turn of the
sweet,
shift.
right? Thank you, guys. Keep it going.
All right, take care, mate. Have a good weekend. Bye. So, and then there were 4, although there might be 5 in a second when Josh gets here. He's 2 minutes late. God damn it.
Super chats anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I do have super chats. Phil, will Labour reverse voter ID rules, first of all?
So there was an interesting thing you may have seen on LBC where Darren Jones was asked this, and he gave an answer. It's been viewed quite a lot of times, nearly 2 million times. He basically had to say, "I don't know." And then he texted like Labour HQ while he was on and got his answer back. So they haven't got a definite policy. Obviously, Labour cannot allow it to continue because even if, it's not even about the morality. It's bad. It's good for the Tories, therefore it's bad for Labour. So they cannot allow it to continue. However, they're not. What they're waiting for, there's supposed to be a review into it, like official review, and that's been held back. So Labour's position at the moment is, rather than them saying we should do this, it's like, we should see what the experts say. Can you tell us what the experts are saying, please, government? So in reality, I suspect they're going to say as little as possible, other than to persuade people to get the voter ID sorted and postal voting if they can't. Labour tend to default to advising people to use postal voting, and then after the election deal with it, because they can't leave it in place.
Yeah. I love that clip. It was in Ian Dale.
Yeah,
he said, "I don't know." I said, "I don't know." And Ian Dale went, "Well, that's honest." And all the other panelists went, "Bloody hell, that's." And he went, "But I bet you I get a text on my phone in a minute, bing, and it came here. It's here." And he read it out, and he went, "Right, so we get as you said, we need to review. Oh, but it says also, if I'm pushed, I need to say this." So he read it out. All the panelists were laughing. It's worth a watch. It's really funny.
Thank you very much to Yoni for the €5 super chat. If British football were to become politicised, would that mean every game would be first past the post, i.e. sudden death?
Good one.
God, that'd be interesting. Wouldn't you'd have like 30-second long games? Be like boxing when you have a knockout, right? That's it. Imagine someone flying all the way over to like Las Vegas to go and watch this massive fight, and it's over in 30 seconds, and then you have to fly home. Just a bit embarrassing. Anyway, Josh, how you doing, mate?
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear. Sorry, I mean,
my God.
no.
Okay.
Shout louder.
No.
I'm joking. We can hear you. It's all good.
Sounds like
I'm
you've
so
got
sorry
bandwidth
about my
problems.
You sound a bit low fidelity though. Is that coming? Are you coming for your earbuds?
That's just my voice, Graham. How rude.
No, it sounds low fidelity. It sounds a bit
Hang
like
on, let me switch.
robotic. If you're coming for,
is this better?
That's a million times better.
Bit better?
Yeah. Apple earbuds are
Okay.
terrible
Awesome.
at transmitting sound.
Oh, there you go.
True story.
Anyway.
There you go. That's much nicer. Now, Josh, we were just going through our favourite stories of the week, and then we'll come to stopthetories.com. Stopthetories.vote. We're going to stop
Yeah.
doing that.
Dot vote.
Does somebody have .com? Does someone have stopthetories.com?
I think it's being, squatted by someone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Probably
We've got a
Tories.
lot of other kind of variants of it though. So
Okay, I want to go to Rachel now and just ask what's your story of the week? What's the story?
Oh, well, it's hard. I mean, obviously, the Supreme Court saying, immunity for Donald Trump. That feels like something we should hear. That was really
we should think about that for the next. I don't know, 6 months. Should we think about it for 6 months?
November feels a good time.
November, first week of November, then we'll come with a decision.
So there was that. These are not stories, but these are things that personally affected me in a good way this week. I mean, one that made me laugh out loud that said Oliver Dowden was like Piers Fletcher Dervish from Alan Bastard from the New Statesman. And if you go and look at Piers Fletcher Dervish on the New Statesman, that is Oliver Dowden, and it's hilarious. He's the voice, everything. So that's really funny. That made me laugh. And I went to see Jonathan Pye last night, as you all know, who it was 95% Tory bashing, and it was really clever. A big section on Liz Truss, which was hilarious. But he tactical voting, talked about it. Whoever your number 2 is, find out who they are, vote for them. Let's get these fuckers out. And he was brilliantly funny. And what was nice for me, as somebody that's a bit agoraphobic, because being trans, you don't really want to go out in the UK as much now. Going to a theatre in London, with several thousand people in it, all cheering when he was talking about getting the Tories out, and everybody, there was a lot of love in that room. Felt so good. There wasn't everybody. It was just magical in that moment. Fantastic. In that short bit of time, the whole room. And I have to say, Jonathan Pye, he did think that Trump was going to win, which I disagree with, but the rest of it was brilliant. And the audience loved it. So that was my moment. It wasn't really a news item, and it was his second to last date, but it was brilliant.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's we need the comedy. My story of the week has got to be Loser Fox losing.
Yeah, that was good.
Well, 180,000, but from what I've heard, it could be as much as £2 million that he's lost.
Yeah,
the legal fees will be massive. Yeah.
It will apparently, because he wants to appeal, that could cost him an extra $1 million.
Yeah.
Oh dear, what a shame. What a shame.
Where's that little violin? I left it here again.
There it is.
Yeah. But I mean, I hope it wipes him out, because he's just a horrible, horrible human being. He was there at the St. George's riot at the weekend, at the beginning of the week, along with Tommy 10 Names, Laxey Lennon Smith, or what his name is, Tommy Robinson, who was also went to court this week. Apparently got off with it, but he appeared in the court with Haiti Hopkins.
Ugh.
I just they all hang out together. Like we all hang out together and we all like have a little WhatsApp.
She on the Apple label. Boom boom. Never mind.
I just can't stand them. They're just revolting people, and they all I don't know. They feed off each other, I guess.
Yeah,
like revolting vampires. Anyway, thank you very much for the super chat to Adrian. Adrian Byrne. I live in an Oxford village. Think Dibley. All of a sudden, the potholes have been fixed, and after 7 years, we have a bus service again. It must be election year. And thank you for the intersection. So that's from Adrian. And we'll do an intersection next week. Definitely. And Rachel, I need to talk to you about that. Possibly, maybe not after the show, maybe tomorrow.
No,
I'll give you a shout.
Yeah,
let's get that sorted. Okay. And Emma, thank you very much, Emma Price, for the £5 super chat. Second question from Rishi, answers economy, Labour government, Rachel Chancellor, NHS, I'm a nurse, I'll never forgive. Email stopthetories.vote. There you go. Thanks very much, Emma. Brilliant. And and we've got Cozy in the chat. Cozy, come into the show. Come into the show. I'm just gonna give Cozy the link so she can come on as well. Right. While I'm doing that, I'll turn to Phil. Phil, what's your story of the week?
Oh, it might be the one that's just flashed up here.
Liz
Truss book enters bestseller list in 70th place. He sold 2,228 copies.
On which planet?
Sorry, it sold 2,000 copies.
Just over 2,000 copies.
I've sold more than 2,000 copies of my book.
Well, I think she's only just brought it out, to be fair. But nonetheless, to say this is her manifesto for saving the entire Western Hemisphere, And I
God.
bet you an awful lot of those copies were bought by people who had to buy it to
Yeah.
review it.
If you can get one she hasn't signed, that's the one that's worth a lot of money.
So
Or she hasn't defaced.
John, who was on earlier, of course, quite famous for getting Rage Against the Machine to #1 for Christmas, right? Maybe we should try and I don't think this would be too hard actually, but like maybe get David Graeber's Bullshit Jobs above Truss's book, maybe. I think that's way more valuable to society. And everyone should have it anyway.
Yeah.
As a project.
Yeah, indeed. But yeah, it's been so. Josh, I know you've turned up a bit late, but what's your sort of story? I don't want to drop it on you if you haven't got one lined up in your head.
I'm probably going to say the trains, but I reckon someone else has probably said that. So
John said that. That was his first.
There you go.
That was, he said the trains first, but then so Labour are going to renationalise the train network.
Yeah,
and it's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to make anything wonderful. But oh my God, it's going to be better than it is right now. That's it.
I think it sets a huge precedent as well, right? I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? And like a lot of people who think very simply about these things, would be like, oh yeah, but do you remember the last time that that trains were run by the government? It's like, yeah, it was the fucking 80s,
and they were purposely trying to run them down.
Yeah,
and
also
the Tory government
things have moved on.
We're trying to get rid of the trains because they saw them as competition to their beloved motorways.
Yeah,
I reckon we can buy trains off Siemens like anyone else can, right? Why do you need to be a private company to buy a train off another company that makes them?
Yeah, exactly. Fair enough. Enough. All right, let's talk about Stop the Tories then. Cosey's on her way. Apparently, she's just messaged me, so I think she's just doing her hair. Josh, tell us about your fabulous website, which is now just relaunched for the local elections.
So Rachel Oda, just then talking about was it Jonathan Pye who went to see, and he was saying, everyone go and find out who came second, right? So the point is that's actually a bit tricky. So we've done a lot of work to make sure that it's really easy, basically, especially with in the general elections, the boundary changes would have changed quite a lot in some places, and that means that the person that came second, you might not even be in that constituency anymore, right? So we've the amount of data is ridiculous, and on the website you'll be able to see the methodologies and actually download the data as well. But just looking at who came second might not just work. So the extension of that message is go find a website that's going to help you do it. And we probably won't be the only ones. But we've all been trying to work out the boundary changes, of course, being the main thing, which means not only where are you, but can you extrapolate what the previous results would have been to some level of confidence,
it's so complicated anyway.
It really is.
So how many councillors are up for election?
Oh, you know what? I should have come with some numbers, shouldn't I?
It must
900.
be
I can easily.
No, it's a couple of thousand.
2,000.
It's not that many.
It's not as many as last year.
No,
it's a lot to remember. If you had to list them off the top of your head.
It's only a
easily
commissioner in our area. There's no councillors this time.
The Tories are saying they're going to lose 400, but I think that's a bit optimistic. I think they're going to lose way more.
Yeah, and someone else is reporting maybe 500. I mean, so there's only 960 something Tories up for election.
2,655.
Yeah.
So less than half of them are Conservative this time. So it's about 960, I think. And somewhere else said that they could lose 500, but I think they've the Tories themselves is quietly saying it could be 400.
So I think the 500 is their expectation management this year. So that if they end up getting away with 400, they'll think it's a victory. Yeah.
Well, last year they said 1,000. They could lose 1,000. And we were just like, great, let's have a go. Let's have a go at that. And they lost 1,063.
This is the second time you've run the StopTheTories.vote website. The first time was last year. How many people did you have visit it? I mean, in the end.
So last year we had just shy of 500,000 people look up their information, which considering we came from nowhere basically and launched only 6 days before the elections, which would have been today, last time. So it kind of blew up last time. And of course, 500,000 people used it. 1,063 Tories lost their seats. I would love to be able to take all the credit for that, but it's not insignificant that 500,000 people tried to look about how to tactical vote them out, right?
But every little helps, and so this is a tactical voting site put together by Josh and friends, all volunteers. No one's getting paid for this. We just want the Tories out.
We do have a crowdfunder.
Yeah, you do have a crowdfunder. It's not the same as being paid, though, is it?
It's not. No. But yeah, and, so the difference. Sorry, Graham.
I was just going to say, and basically, you type in your postcode into stopthetories.vote, and it'll tell you who they suggest you vote for. It's a very honest site as well, because not only does it say if they don't know because of the boundary changes or whatever, they'll say we don't know, go, or it might say it doesn't matter who you vote for. The Tories aren't going to win here. Vote with your heart. And also it gives you which I think is really important, it gives you the methodology. There's actually a whole page on how they come to the methodology behind what they say to vote for. And obviously this is kind of like the second dry run. Can I call it that for the general election?
Absolutely, it's a warm-up.
Don't mind me.
And in terms of the general election, it's worth pointing out as well. So even if you don't have local elections, you may have PCC elections. You could still go on it, because there's links to lots of useful things like how to register, how to sort out voter ID. At least there's a link so you can check if what you think is voter ID is actually voter ID. Yeah, because that's going to be really crucial. There are going to be people who have their vote stolen because they don't have their right voter ID, and this will also happen in the general election. So we need to reduce that. Because for all these Tory MPs we talked about earlier on, these Tory MPs who may be consoling themselves with the fact that all the don't knows will come out the woodwork and save them. That's not actually the thing they're really pinning their hopes on. Is a load of anti-Tory voters being turned away at the ballot box.
Yeah, and some research recently showed that could be up to 5 million people that don't have the right ID. So like another thing is that of course some people might think that they've got the right ID, but they don't. So do check, get whatever you can, get the voter authority certificate. Is that what it's called? And then just take all your ID. Just take it all. Yeah,
just take a couple of forms of ID just in case.
Yeah,
I've got my crap black British passport ready.
It's also really important that you don't get turned away before you get in the polling station as well. It's the people sitting at the desk that have to check your ID, not the people outside.
I'm very lucky because our polling station is literally my next door neighbour.
Well, actually, our next door neighbour does that as well.
Yeah. It's us, and then it's the village hall, and then it's the llama farmer.
So we're also doing the mayors as well, and we're doing London Assembly this time.
Yes.
So, and the police and crime commissioners. And so the important thing about the police and crime commissioners is that every single person in England and Wales will be able to vote in that election. And often, of course, it's not really one that people show up for. And what kind of people do you think end up being police and crime commissioners?
No.
Right? It's a very, very Tory thing, because Tories show up, don't they? Right? Especially for the really boring stuff that actually is quite important. And police and crime commissioner, as far as I understand it, are one of the only roles that can hold your local police to account and actually are the voice of the people. And so it's super important.
And if you're trans, check them out for gender critical, because there was a big campaign to get as many gender critical police and crime commissioners in, and they hit them hard. I know.
I mean, it's almost guaranteed, isn't it, if they're a conservative? So.
Well, yeah. Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much for the super chat. 2,000 copies shipped to Miss L.T. Russ. As an aside, I bought Graham's book today. Yay, Graham's book. That's my book. Man of the World. The first of 3. And if I sell enough copies of it, I'll write the next one. And Adrian Byrne, thank you very much for the super chat, Adrian. Me again. Can I just ask Rachel, did the vile Section 28 hurt her as much as it hurt others? I lost a gay mate to it at the age of 14. Never vote Tory.
Yeah, it was a really tough time. It was the articles in the Daily Mail, which were really, I mean, it's like they are again now, but they were, it was when HIV was, it was, they call it grit and all the other stuff, and it was the gay disease, and it was those attacks and the stigma that we faced, and people, and because the NHS weren't great early on, they got better, but there was, it was just a really awful time. A lot of the community were taking food to each other, to people that were ill at home, and it was just a really awful time. And the way that we kind of beat Section 28 was putting a face on the gay community and getting into communities and joining clubs, societies, putting humanity on the gay community, and that's how we won acceptance. What the difference this time around is social media, which wasn't there then, and that's horrendous. There's a lot more dark money flying in, because it wasn't dark money coming into the UK to stop. It was just politics and bigotry back then. Now there's money because it's about abortion rights in the UK. They want to, and they're starting with trans rights to get to it. And there's a lot of money flooding in to cause it, and a lot of social media, and a lot of right-wing papers, and a lot of Tufton Street nastiness. And it's a really orchestrated. So it's harder this time, and we can't put our face on it because we're not in any newspapers. Even the BBC don't have trans people on, so you don't see us in anything anymore. So it's really well orchestrated.
At least in the 1980s, there were gay people on TV who,
There were.
you know, perhaps they couldn't say they were gay, but you know, obviously,
but everyone knew who they were, and everybody in the celebrities knew all their friends were gay, but they didn't, you know. And people.
Well, I mean, Graham Chapman from Monty Python was like, he was one of the editors of Gay Times, wasn't he?
My mum often talks about, my mum worked, she used to go to her friends at Shepperton. She knocked around with Bing Crosby and Bob Hope and stuff.
Oh, cool.
My mum was a bit of a party animal. It's a long story. But lots of people were gay, but even when they were in restaurants and things, the press didn't rush in with cameras and stuff. Celebrities were kind of left alone. We didn't have the celebrity culture then. You could be dining in a restaurant in London, there'd be somebody famous there, and people just leave them alone. But now it's obviously very different. But gay people were sort of out in the as celebrities to other celebrities, but not out of that circle. But it's all just so different. It's a well-funded, oiled machine. I still think we'll get there, but it's just going to take longer, and it's a tough old fight.
And do you know what? One of the you could play like Section 28 bingo now.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always think of is won't somebody think of the children? The whole reason of Section 28 was because they didn't want kids to become gay. Like they were dead straight, and then someone will come along and say, "Hey, have you thought about getting with another fella?" And they're going, "Oh shit, I never thought of that. I never fantasized about that. I never even until you just said that now. Actually, do you know what? That sounds like a great idea. I'm going to go and do it." And you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, because didn't you know the gay rubs off?
Yeah, you have to pray the gay away.
Wasn't bad apple and all that,
There was a thing in some African country once where there were like male lions having homosexual relations, and the local authorities, because very conservative, they blamed it on foreign gay tourists having sex and giving the lions these ideas. And so I remember someone responding, and they basically went,
"Made our lions gay."
Well, no, it was better than that. They were basically going, "Kudos to the guys who had sex in front of lions."
But lions are an incredibly gay animal because it's the females who do all the hunting, and then the males sit around waiting for them to come back with the din-dins, and they get a bit bored and they start to have sex with each other. It happens in safari parks in the UK. It happens on the plains of Africa and in Kenya and Tanzania. Yeah, because gay animals exist, everyone.
They do. Penguins.
Gay penguins. Should we make a documentary?
I want to make a documentary about gay
animals. I want to make a documentary about gay animals called "It's Just Not Natural," and it's all these gay animals around. Like literally every single type of animal that we have, there'll be some gay ones because that's the way biology works. We don't know why, but it does.
And there are animals that can spontaneously change gender.
Yeah.
And that's great. Oh, they really.
You're making the frogs gay.
Hate frogs.
You're making the frogs gay. But So with this, someone think of the children. That is why Section 28 came in. That's why it was illegal to have gay sex until you were 21. Like everyone else could have sex at 16 legally. Yay! If you were gay, you had to wait an extra 5 years in case it was just a phase you were going through. Like having sex once and going, "Oh, that's not for me, really." That would like mess you up for the rest of your life, apparently.
And it's case after case after case after case in the US is it's a politician or it's a religious evangelical right. They're the ones that keep getting arrested for fiddling with kids, and it's like you hardly ever see any LGBT people doing that.
Yeah, they're the people that need to be, separated away from children. Like, why would you become one of those roles, like a priest or something?
Yeah, and I said to you before, the most observed, the states in America that observe the most trans porn are the red states.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me. But yeah, we're seeing it again now with people trying to stop kids from using beta blockers, trying to stop them from using puberty blockers, because this is the line, isn't it? Of like, oh, we've got to protect the children. What from?
Yeah.
Themselves, obviously.
Yeah. I know.
Because they don't know what's good for them. And it's like,
trans kids, trans adults, same-sex marriage, women's rights. It's that order. It's the fascist book of fun, and they wheel it out from the 1930s, in the early 80s, and they're doing it again. It's not an original book. It sells more than Liz Truss's though.
I've just been reading a little bit more of it. There's a nice little line in this Guardian article on it. Read it out to you. So she's just sold just over 2,000 copies. It says here, by comparison, David Cameron managed to sell about 21,000 copies of his memoir in his first week, while Tony Blair's autobiography sold 92,000 in the same time frame. Although Truss's figures pale in comparison, she beat both on copies sold per day in Downing Street basis.
Very clever.
Is this where I have to get out my embarrassing book to show you that I bought?
What?
Britannia Unchained, is it?
Is it
a whole collection of them?
No.
Is it the Great Brexit Cookbook?
I've got Britannia Unchained.
That's a good book.
I've shown you that one before.
Buy that for someone that you don't like who voted for Brexit. It's got all kinds of.
But I have
lovely dishes in.
All right.
Spartan Victory.
By Mark Francois.
Oh wow!
Oh my God! Did you steal that? Did you steal that, Ollie? Because stealing is wrong.
I bet you bought it on eBay for $5.
But buying that would be wronger.
Well, I had to get it to read it because no one else was buying it, and I wanted to find out what he'd said, what he'd done, and he says a lot of very hilarious stuff when it comes to the Brexit stuff, and yeah, it's a fun read.
I love that it's got one of the is it the O in Victory, which is an Amiga sign, so it's like the last letter of the Greek alphabet. Anyway, Adrian, thank you very much for the super chat again. Thank you. One last time. I love you guys. Oh, we love you too, Adrian. Thank you. Last weekend, I told my boyfriend at the car, I won't kiss you here as kids are about, and dramatically said to him, will somebody think of the children? Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, it is like that, isn't it? And like, oh no, if a kid sees two men kiss, then that's it. They'll turn gay.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. It winds me up because it's the same people who go on and on and on about libertarianism and being free and free to say what you want, and don't let people stop you from saying what you want and living your life the way you want it to live. And then they go around telling people to stop living their lives like they want to live it.
I know.
Well, it's only if they only defend free speech if they're saying what you want them to say as well. Like, you can get arrested now for holding up a blank sign on a street, not bothering anyone.
Yeah, indeed. Can we bring Cozy into the conversation? Cozy, I'm sorry to wake you up.
Yeah, I fell asleep on the sofa.
It's Friday night. That's acceptable. It's been a long week. We were just asking
I won't
everyone.
stop long. I've got to be up at 6 a.m.
Okay, we won't keep you long. We'll wrap up soon. But we were just going around asking for our stories of the week. So, was there anything this week that you particularly wanted to pick up and run with?
It's probably a bit niche. First of all, hi Rachel. I love your background. I'm insanely jealous. And last time I was on, I was missing you because exactly. Live long and prosper, my darling. I wanted to get your take on the cast report, but I dare say you've covered that.
We did an intersection last week, or the week before last. We did an intersection on Labour Social with Helen Belcher from Transactual, who's a bit of an expert on trans health, and she answered all the questions. Hopefully I put all the ones you would want to hear. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to look for that, I think. So my news of the week is probably a little bit niche. I think it was an article today in The Guardian about the wonderful people at Migrants at Work taking the Home Office to court over a case where a migrant worker on a skilled worker visa. Now, and you probably need to dial this back a bit. They've introduced the minimum income requirement for dependents and spouses, right?
38,600.
That's right. Well, that's for spouse visas for British citizens. There's also a minimum income requirement for workers' visas, and they've stopped. So for no, sorry, it's not the minimum income requirement. That's the problem with this case. Ignore me. Scratch that. I got it muddled up with another case. So they've stopped dependent visa for workers. So you can no longer bring your family members, basically.
Yeah.
Now, family members that are already here are not supposed to be affected. They've basically said it's anybody who is now applying for a new worker visa and wants to bring their family, they can't do it. But people who are already here shouldn't be affected. Now, in this case, the person, it's a young family, actually, married couple with 2 kids. The second child was actually born in the UK. The skilled worker, the person who's here on the skilled worker visa, was working in one area. They were working in IT, and the company that they worked for stopped the work. They lost their job, and therefore they lost their sponsorship because the company stopped having a sponsorship license. Now, in a situation like that, you can find another job and you can work for another company as long as that other company has a sponsorship license. They found another sponsor, but it was in a different area of work, which meant a change of code. So they're now working in the care and health and social care sector. And that meant that it's treated as a new visa application, and the worker's spouse and 2 children were told to go to Ghana.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think it's absolutely scandalous, and I'm delighted that the wonderful people at Migrants at Work are taking the Home Office to court over this particular case.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's it. What the Tories are doing is, again, unethical, but also it's bad. It's bad economically. Like, they're setting things up so that everyone who comes here will send most of their pay packet to another country instead of keeping it in this country and spending it in this country on their family living in this country. Like, it doesn't make any economic sense.
Absolutely true. I hadn't even thought about that angle, but that's absolutely true. They are, and they're creating this whole concept of guest workers. You know, we had guest workers in Germany in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and we realized that it was actually bad practice. It wasn't very good practice because they're not guest workers. They don't come for 5 years and then go away again. I'm trying not to swear, Graham. Did you?
It's all right. It's all good. It's all good. I was trying not to swear on Tuesday when we did, you know, Ollie, we did the what's it called? The geoscope on Tuesday, and I dropped the C-bomb at one point. Yeah, that was enough to get that demonetized. That video is demonetized. There's nothing I could do about it. Just swear about 45 minutes in. It's like, no.
This is where you need to get your little button console, and every time you want to swear, have a swear button.
That's a really good idea.
Can you clip it and then resubmit it?
No, because
I just saw something in the chat from Mike Organ, allowing employers to hold workers' passports. That already happens. That's actually a fairly common thing. Yeah. And it is a hallmark of modern day slavery and exploitation, but it happens all the time in the UK.
Well, talking of modern day slavery,
I personally know many cases.
If you are a modern day slave and you're brought to this country against your will, you can now be deported to Rwanda.
Yeah. No. There's the people who will be deported to Rwanda have already been in the UK. This deterrent is a nonsense. Like, anyone who arrived by unconventional means since some date last summer is just in limbo now. Nothing happens to them. They're not going to be processed, which means that any genuinely illegal immigrants are not going to be identified and deported. Any with a good case are not going to be able to be accepted to join the workforce and pay their own way. They're just in limbo. So ironically, the only people who are definitely not going to, you and I have got more chance of being sent to Rwanda than anyone coming across on a small boat right now.
Wow.
Although, of course, half those houses have been sold to local people. So,
70%
we've
of them.
solved the housing
most of them.
crisis in
Most of them.
Rwanda.
Yeah.
Right.
Jesus.
Why can't we build like affordable housing in the UK, but we can build it in Rwanda? It's incredibly embarrassing.
It should be if the media would actually point this out more. It should be impossible. It'd be so embarrassing. It'd be impossible if the media pointed out there is no deterrent, because the Conservatives legislated last year that everyone who arrives in the UK on a small boat is going to stay in the UK indefinitely, because that is the policy. That is actually the policy that the Home Office are applying. There is zero chance of deporting anyone who arrives in a small boat tomorrow, the day after, next week, after the first flight takes off, because the legal situation is they have to be held in limbo.
Oh my God. The Labour Party, when they get in, are going to have such a bloody mountain. And we need to talk about the fact that a lot of trans people were very upset this week by, was it the Shadow Justice Secretary's comments sticking up for J.K. Rowling?
Yeah.
And this is something that we've got to reckon
I think
with.
I missed this.
Yeah, it's upset a lot of people, understandably.
Yeah, Labour's been a bit of a revolution inside the Labour Party, and I think he has got a bit of a headache now. I mean, Wes was, with trans women aren't women. Actually, Gillian Keegan said it today. But so they put that somebody put on LinkedIn and said Gillian Keegan's saying trans women aren't women. Oh my God! I said, did she say that they were before? Because I can't believe that she did. But okay.
Yeah.
So we're working. I mean, they've all said slightly different things, but Wes was, trans women aren't women. I mean, that was disappointing. We had here adult human female dog whistle, and then we've had, obviously Rosie Duffield, and now we've got, this Minister of Justice. I mean, she didn't say trans women aren't women, but she's dog whistling some of the support for JK, who's really going off on one at the moment, and it's just like, oh, for God's sake,
I mean, I understand that they don't want to be, scaring people into voting Tory.
It's not
but
just
at the same time, they don't have to be. They don't have to be saying this stuff. So I wish. They
could just say nothing.
Exactly, Cozy. Exactly.
So there's two things.
If you've got nothing good to say nothing.
In this particular case, they absolutely can. Because it is not actually an issue for most people. It's nothing to do with votes. This is not a strategy for votes. This is a strategy for. This is a strategy for afterwards. Yeah. It is ironically, I hope anyway. It's quite right to be sceptical until they've done something.
Yeah.
But it is ironically a strategy so that they can legislate. What they're trying to do is stop it becoming a big fuss of an issue. Like in France, for example, they just banned conversion therapy. It wasn't an issue. There was no sting in the debate. There was no toxicity. That's what Labour are trying to do here, because they're trying to do it with lots of other things. It's not just about this. It's everything that the Tories are trying to divide people on. Brexit being the really big one. They're just trying to take the sting out of everything by not having points of contention with the Tories. Now, that being said, because Labour's policies currently they do have policies for legislating for trans rights. Now, we have to make sure that they're still in the manifesto when the manifesto is published.
Yeah.
I've not heard that has been dropped. There was a bit of a thing after was it earlier this year, where a couple of nosy people were sort of trying to leak a few things that had sort of changed, and I'd not heard that had. Yeah. So hopefully it's still in the manifesto.
But it is a shame that, because Scotland was very progressive, self-ID, they hate crime, and they were moving, and obviously I think all that will fall away when they go more Alba-esque. But Labour, there was a point where Labour, even the Tories were going self-ID, hate crime at one point, and now Labour have just gone back conversion therapy. But I bet there'll be a but when they get to it. There'll be. If they won't do self-ID, they're not going to, the hate crime against trans people doubled in a year, and they're not going to do anything about that. They're just going to, nobody's excited that they're going to move LGBT rights forward. And most of my friends in Labour, in government, are like, it's a bit hot. It's Ming Va's strategy. You've got to keep it quiet. But, once we're in, might do.
Yeah.
But the lobbyists, the anti-trans lobbyists in Parliament that have been banging away at the Tories since 2016, they have switched. They're not lobbying Tories anymore. They know they're going. They have switched to Labour, and they're working through the Labour MPs now.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Cosy that Labour didn't need to do this one. I just see them as being, in a way, it makes sense. They're being completely ruthless on absolutely everything. But for something like this, it's not actually going to swing any constituency. So there is no need for it. This is one thing. There's probably a couple of things I would say, but this is one thing I didn't think they needed to change on. But it is all part of the same strategy, not giving the Tories any lines of argument and any emotive subject at all.
I just wish it would be. I don't think they're going to roll any rights back when they're in, but I just don't think they're going to do anything much moving forward. I just think it's not going to be exciting for us. So it's just a shame because it's a lot, 28% of the Generation Z are LGBTQI. It's a big voting opportunity. 28% of them.
Well, do you feel like this is a good reason for people who are trans to, I know it's going to sound a bit daft now, but like to join the Labour Party and become a bloc within Labour so that, when we go to conference and things like that, they can actually affect change within the party?
Well, I mean, a lot of the LGBT... there's a lot of resignations of it in LGBTQI people because of the Wes Streeting comments. I think that the only one that's saying we support trans people, we support self-ID is the Greens. They're the only ones that are saying they've got their gender crits, don't get me wrong, but they are the only ones that say it out loud still. That's what they're having the split with the SNP now on the net zero thing. They're still, we are there. I mean, even the Liberal Democrats we'll do self-ID, but they're not really yelling it out of a megaphone, but they've still got it. They've still got it. Whereas Labour's like, it's always retraction. We're not just saying less. So when they're in, there's nothing to be excited about. I don't think we're going to get anything. They might get conversion therapy, but I bet you they put on some condition on trans.
But don't you think that's why it would make sense for people to join the Labour Party and change it from within?
I hope so. I mean, that's why I'm still in Labour Social. I'm hoping that you'll get to
that's why I set
PR,
up this channel.
press regulation, and needle them about trans rights.
Yeah, exactly.
But I tell people to hang on in there. We just got to see. I've got to get the Tories out. That's my first step. Get them out because they are a lot worse, obviously. Yeah. There's a lot of allyship in Labour still, and don't get me wrong. And I think that we just got to get the influence. But they have full-time lobbyists at the anti-trans movement in Parliament working on Labour now. I mean, we need to do something. We need to be lobbying hard as well.
Yeah. Something I'd like to see, I think, is more trans candidates. I think that will be very good.
Yes.
I think getting more people to stand.
Any trans candidates?
That would be very good.
No. Well, there was Susie Izzard was going to try and Brighton, wasn't she?
Well, that was the last one, but she didn't even seem very committed to that. She made a better fist of the Sheffield.
She did. Sheffield would have been good, and she knows the area because she's from there, isn't she? But I think there's not any visible candidates that I know. Obviously, there's one in the Conservatives who was outed, but that not done a great. Not done
a
lot.
bit of a dick, really.
Was he the one who was drink driving and then crashed the car and left and
ran away?
And obviously the Liberal Democrats have a trans candidate. I mean, is it Sophie Cook was the last Labour one? I can't remember if Sophie Cook was down in Hove, who was the last Labour one that was standing. I think I might have got that wrong party.
I just remember the good old days when people being trans wasn't much of an issue, when us being part of the EU wasn't much of an issue, and then suddenly we were told it was.
Yeah,
and it was the most important thing. It was more important than the lives of your firstborn. Yeah, it was just like it just went crazy. I've got a load of super chats to get through. Sorry, so we got to do that. So thank you very much to Alec Barrett saying my UK government passport brochure says never give your passport to anyone, especially employers. There you go. Puddinator, £5 super chat. I was born in the UK, but making plans that the Tories win to get a spot on the Rwanda flights back to Europe and seek asylum to get around Brexit. That makes sense. KMD123. I don't really understand this super chat, KMD, but it says all this talk and stuff, lol. No apology for supporting idiot, vilifying populists like Corbyn and his anti-scientific statements and conspiracies. I don't know if you use the word vilifying in the right context there, but I'm not a big Corbyn fan. I don't know if you've watched any of my stuff over the years, but I'm really not a big Corbyn fan. Rwanda, great. They've confused it with Wakanda. That's from Paul. Yeah, it's the same sort of mentality where people just go Africa and they mean it as one country. Like you've got Africa, you've got India, you've got the USA, you've got Argentina. Yeah. And it's like, it's 54 countries.
I thought it was 58.
It's 54 countries, 55 if you include Western Sahara.
Yeah.
And I should know, because I've been to them all.
You've been to all of them?
Yeah, I might have mentioned it.
I just once
Mark
or
your
twice.
cards, people. Mark your bingo.
Bible book. Actually, this covers nearly 50 of the 54 going in the first year, which is pretty good going considering some of those roads. Paul Ewan, Rwanda, great. Oh, I've read that one. KMD, £2 super chat. Thank you very much. Still no apology. I don't know what I'm apologising for. Sorry, you've not made yourself very clear. Am I supposed to apologise for Corbyn? The guy that I literally stood against.
At every opportunity.
Yeah. And then Darian
you meant to apologise for slating Corbyn. No, that's not going to work either.
I'm not going to apologise for slating him, and I'm not going to apologise for supporting him because I never did. Darian Destar, thank you very much. Conversion therapy is viciously anti-gay. Yeah, it is. It's absolutely disgraceful.
But what's problematic in the UK is that they've banned conversion therapy and then backtracked and said, "Oh, but only for the gays, not for the trans."
Yeah.
So it's it's uncoupling the tea from everybody else. It's like, I'm sorry, if conversion therapy is wrong, then conversion therapy is wrong.
Yeah. And most countries have just banned it outright.
It's no different from brainwashing somebody into a religion or...
Yeah. I'll come back to this in a moment, but someone's just pointed out that someone just paid to break the emergency Corbyn alarm. So I'm going to set it off. Emergency Corbyn unlocked! So that went off. But no, conversion therapy. I mean, imagine if there was something that you shouldn't fancy blondes and they were actually getting young men, you know, into to see a psychiatrist or, you know, a religious leader, maybe, to stop them fancying blonde women. Just like, what do they do? Do they show pictures of brunettes and go, "Don't you prefer this?" Like, well, I wouldn't mind that, but you know, I just have a personal preference. I can't help what turns me on. It's just a weird thing to want to do to someone else.
It doesn't work, and it just scars people. And it just.
But why would you want to stop someone being... I know this is a ridiculous question to ask on this panel, but why would you want to stop someone being gay?
Because people, right-wing Christians and want to be in the 1950s again, and they want the world to be like binary and have no black people and no have LGBT people, and they just want the world which it never was.
Can we get rid of all the LGBT people, but we keep the porn?
They probably watch the porn.
That's what I mean.
They watch. They are what they accuse. That's the thing. They always are. It's always the same. I mean, it's just.
Opinionators pointing out the thing is with Labour, a lot of pro-LGBT plus legislation will be free to them to introduce and get some early wins.
I hope so.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. And do you know what? It's one of those things that by the time the next election comes around, if we get it in early enough, no one will care.
That is the thing. I don't think it is a win for Labour, but it is the sort of thing you do quite early.
Yeah.
Because if you have got any legislation that's going to cause any aggro at all, it's just common political wisdom. You do it early in the parliamentary cycle, and then, when the election comes around, the sky hasn't fallen in after all.
Yeah. So joining the EU in the first 100 days, then, really?
Well, unfortunately, we need the Tories on board with that one.
Yoni says even the mercantile reasoning doesn't work there. Wouldn't someone else being gay just cut the competition? Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, Rachel.
Well, just going back to you were saying there was a Labour candidate. I know them quite well. Sophie Cook stood in in East Worthing and Shoreham in the 2017 election. I think they stood against Tim Loughton, actually. But anyway, they were a really good candidate and quite popular, but didn't quite get it across the line then. Never know. I don't know if they're standing again.
Well, the thing is moving away from the Tories. Like, there's a lot of people from Brighton who are basically moving along the coast as their families grow.
Yeah.
So all those places are changing.
And Tim Loughton's standing down, isn't he? So, so he's so that I think he pretty realizes he sees the writing on the wall. I think
they all do.
Mm.
I saw someone sent me some. I might have said this before, but someone sent me some screenshots of some Tory councillor Facebook pages where they're literally waving goodbye. Like they already know what's coming. You know.
Well, last time in the last one, it was like, we are the local Conservatives. We're not the national We're the local ones. We're the local issues. We're nothing to do with that lot over there. There's nothing to see here.
The one I'm watching is Ben Houchen. I hope he loses his seat.
I hope he loses. But I don't know why people don't ask these people then. Like Andy Street's the one who's saying, you know, I'm not whipped. And it's like, so why are you standing as a Conservative then? Like, why don't you stand as an
You know what annoys me about Andy Street? During the Conservative conference, when all the HS2 stuff was going on, he was out there going, if Sunak cancels HS2, I am going to resign. Like, I am going to resign if he cancels HS2. Cancels HS2, doesn't resign.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I hope someone brings that up in this campaign.
Yeah.
Well, they're running out of time. It's like less than a week to go.
It was that the funny was it was a few weeks ago on Question Time. There was that mate of Ben Houchen and his wife in the audience going, "He's a great MP. He's been really great mayor. He's done some great stuff." And, and the guy there was a director of the company that Ben
Guess next week, isn't it? I keep on losing complete track of time. We'll know this time by next week.
Of course, it's the last 48 hours that shapes a lot of people's voting habits anyway.
Yeah.
So
you're going to have a special on Thursday? Or
an election special? Yeah, I think I'll do that. That's a good idea. Yeah,
make a note.
Yeah, I'm literally making a note of that because I'll forget otherwise.
I was just saying, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night because there's loads of news coming out, and I was saying to my fiance, I certainly won't get any sleep next Thursday because there'll be some results coming out like midnight.
Wow.
So I'll probably get no sleep at all next Thursday.
No sleep till the Tories are done.
Well, we'll know all the results by Friday night, won't we?
Most of them. I mean, there's the important ones we'll know.
Yeah. This time next week should be good. It should be a good Labour social. Please tune in for it.
Yeah, it'll be like Sunday when we're getting some of the results, though. Some of the spread around
in the Outer Hebrides. I was going to say we're going to have to wrap up soon because it's coming up to 11 o'clock. It's past my bedtime. But I just wanted to talk just very briefly about the USA because this week we've had more Trump. No, just very quickly because the Supreme Court of the United States of America has literally kicked the can down the road for whether these trials of Donald J. Trump can go ahead. And they've said, we're going to have to wait till like July maybe, and then we'll give a decision. And the decision's going to be to get a lower court to look into all the facts of the case, which is going to take another X many months. And they're just clearly I don't know how anyone could look at this institution, the Supreme Court at the moment, and just go, "Oh no, that's fine, that's working. Yeah. It's not corrupt in any way, shape, or form."
No.
But yeah, and I'm part of me is very, very, very glad that there are no TV cameras in the courtroom in Trump's court case in New York because
I wish there were.
I hate his face, and I hate his face, and I hate his voice.
But did you see the stuff that Ben Marcellus on the Midas Touch read out about the fact was he said they've got lots of because obviously he's been falling asleep and that's done him a lot of damage because obviously the Sleepy Joe thing isn't real. But the best bit because he's been breaking gas, he's been farting while he's asleep and his lawyers have been reacting really, really badly.
I didn't know about this.
Go and look it up on the Midas Touch. It went viral, 2 million views. So, he's a very serious, Ben, he's a law professor and he's like, there's a lot of gas. He's passing gas. His lawyers are everyone, it's going pretty badly. And of course, Michael Cohen is like, well, he wears a nappy as well. So he's gassing through his nappy. That can't be a pleasant experience.
Oh, man.
So that is what they're talking about and that's really doing a lot. That's gone viral on a lot of the.
I love the clip, the juxtaposition of him saying there were thousands of people outside the courtroom protesting.
Yeah, there was 3,
and there was no one there. There was one guy. There was one guy in a chair with a bit of cardboard saying Trump.
The Two Liars channel on is really good to look on YouTube. They went outside with that was good.
I mean,
The Good Liars. So
the Good Liars.
Yeah.
it's
But the other
Good
thing
Liars.
Trump's doing is he gets all his PAs to print off all the positive articles about him off the internet. And he's walking around with that on. When you watch him coming in and out the court, he's got them because he's reading those in court because it's anything he wants to read. And he's saying, look, here's my evidence that, I didn't do this. And it's just articles from the right-wing media that say nice things about him. It's not evidence. It's nothing to do with his case. He's carrying it around with him. It's just, it's totally nuts.
Well, yeah, I hope he goes down for this. I hope he gets a custodial sentence, and I hope that he doesn't do his polling any good. I think a lot of independent voters are going to look at it and go, nah, sorry.
But the hush money, because with the gag order that he was being breaching, they honestly thought that the judge was going to, I mean, that's what he wants. He'd love to do a little bit of time over a weekend or something because it would be real victim mode. But his Secret Service were planning him going in, and they were getting ready for just in case the judge put him in jail for a couple of days, but obviously he didn't. But and what I'm hoping is when he loses, and he is going to lose in November, that Biden, they spend, the Democrats don't just sit on their asses for 4 years. They shore up, the voting regs. They flood the Supreme Court with judges. They get some stuff done while they've got the houses. Otherwise, we're going to be doing this all over again in 28 with somebody else who's probably
with Trump
more
again,
evil
in his 80s.
Oh, he'll be dead.
I hope so.
Mugabe held on until he was about 93.
Yeah, the evil bugger's going a long
healthier
time.
Lifestyle. Donald Trump does not live.
No, he wasn't. Mugabe was overweight. He didn't live the good lifestyle, and
didn't eat as many McDonald's.
Murdoch's still alive.
The evil buggers, they always go on, don't they?
I think he eats the flesh of the unbaptized children. That gives him the gift
Donald
of
Trump
flight.
eats burgers.
The blood of unicorns.
Yeah, blood of unicorns, whatever it is. Questionable Sanity says, is Trump a bug from Men in Black? Yes.
I think he probably is, yeah. There was a really excellent question from somebody about where do you find out where your police and crime commissioner candidate stands on trans issues? That's a really good question.
It is a good question. Because I looked at the very good Stop the Tories.vote site just now to look at my crime commissioner, and I was Googling them, and there was a trans dare visibility page on Facebook that came up, and he was standing on there saying, so it's all you can do is Google them and see if they've said anything.
Or email them.
Or you could.
They're interested in your vote.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
That's a good point, yeah.
Wait, can you talk to your politicians, Phil? Are you allowed to do that? Ooh.
You're allowed. They don't necessarily reply, but you can try.
Well, you have to go through official channels, obviously, through something like,
they'll have a campaign email where you can put
or
questions
their
to them.
official email addresses that is listed.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So, bit of a preview for the general election stopthetories.vote website. We will have both of those features. So the first thing is we're going to have ways of lobbying not only the MPs that are incumbent, but future candidates, including emailing them and doing it publicly on social media as well, and all sorts of clever ways of doing lobbying directly from there. So think of it as your lobbying dashboard.
Fantastic.
And it's not just going to be 2 weeks before the election either. We're ready to go. So basically, when we've got the local elections out of the way,
are you going to redirect to They Work For You, or are you going to be like
an
alternative to They Work For You?
So then the next thing is we're going to integrate all sorts of other data points from other sources into one place, including things like the kinds of lists that Hope Not Hate have as well.
What about They Vote? They Work For You.com.
They Work For You, yeah.
Yeah. So They Work For You has mainly voting records, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of Tories standing down. So it obviously won't be possible for all seats, and there's going to be obviously a lot of new candidates as well. So we will be integrating that, but it won't be comprehensive.
Do you need help then looking into the candidates and digging up dirt?
We do.
That could be our job, everyone. Hey gang, watching this, let's dig up dirt on Tory candidates. So if you give us the names, Josh, we'll Google them and
So
we'll
we
call
actually
up their
have
old
that
school
project.
friends.
We have that project spinning up as well in our Discord already.
300 honey traps set up. We'll have them all in rooms at 3 o'clock in the morning, ringing people up. demanding $6,500.
Bigger boys.
Bigger boys came. Bigger boys came.
It's 650, of course, because it's 650 candidates, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, we do have that project spinning up. So Carol Vorderman calls it the shit sheets.
Love it.
And she's very keen to get a huge crowdsourced effort to try and gather information on all of these new people that we're going to have no idea about.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Well,
great.
it won't be 650 though.
No, it might not be quite 650. But
Let's get some shit sheets together.
yeah, in our Discord. So moving forward, Discord, you can find that on all our websites. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
brilliant.
That is
All
so
right.
good.
Well, thanks,
Wow.
Josh. Has anyone got anything to say before we wrap up? I've just got a couple of super chats to go through. I've got Emma Price. Thank you very much. Trump, as I've said for weeks, is so done. This is where me and Emma disagree. But it's so amusing. It's not a hush money trial. It's election interference. That's
Yeah,
true.
absolutely.
It needs to be reported properly. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
Yoni, for the €5 super chat, thank you. The question that wasn't asked was if Biden were to take out Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, would he have immunity for that?
Ooh, I like it.
Ooh.
No,
Isn't the idea that they just put in like another 10
Yeah.
justices? That's the
Yes.
idea, right?
Yeah. And
I mean,
but
all
what
these
they'd have to
ideas
do
are
is
so
then
obvious.
change the rules
Yeah.
once they put in those justices to stop the Republicans doing the same thing when they get in.
If the Democrats have enough power to actually change some feature of the Constitution, they must do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Just like here, right? If they actually change the election systems to be fairer, right, it will secure everything else they do.
Get rid of the
But
election.
they don't have to change the Constitution for that because there's nothing
No.
in the Constitution that says there's a set number of justices on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
They
Get
can
rid of the
have
Electoral
199
College.
of them.
And then
Hillary Clinton, of course, got more votes in 2016, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there you go.
the
Yeah.
Electoral College goes.
Al Gore got more votes in 2000.
Electoral College,
I
it
remember it
makes
well.
no sense for what is clearly a binary contest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was to try and give the rural
Yeah,
areas a
but
bit
it was
more of a
bollocks.
vote over the cities to stop the
bollocks,
cities
though.
deciding everything. The farmers need a voice. But you got a wacky system where Wyoming, which has less than 500,000 people living in it, has the
Yeah,
same
but
number of senators
like-
as California, which has 40 million people.
When
Yeah.
you give some people more power with their vote than others, you just make it easier to bribe and
Yeah.
We do this with
generate
we
corruption.
do this with the UN. Nauru, with 8,000 people, gets the same number of votes in the UN as India with 1.3 billion.
Yeah, quite a lot of
They,
UN votes don't really do anything though.
The
Well-
phrase they use in America is that land doesn't vote, people do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Does Hughes Island get a vote at the UN, Graham?
Ginger Island. No, it's part of Panama. We're not going to secede from Panama. Panama's a great little country. I mean, it's got its problems, as any sort of up and coming nation does.
Well, I'd like to declare that I'm starting my own Ginger Island Independence Party.
Ginger Island Independence
Secede
Movement.
from Panama.
Oh, no. We can't be arsed with that. We're fine with Panama. Thank you very much.
But yeah,
What's Panama ever done for Ginger Island?
well, they're pretty good on the environment. I like the fact that you're not allowed to own shoreline in either Costa Rica or Panama. It's a really great policy, and I wish they would adopt it all over the Caribbean, because far too much of the Caribbean has been bought up by big hotel chains who buy the beach, and the local people can't use
And
the
then
beach
have a
anymore.
private beach.
Yeah, private beach. The white sand beaches are all private now, and the volcanic black sand beaches, they're the ones that the locals use, which no one really wants to. It's a disgrace. But in Panama and in Costa Rica, no one's allowed to own any of the shoreline 10 meters from the sea. Coming in.
From the water, yeah.
From the water. Yeah, that's the word. Right, I'm going to have to sign off now.
I'm going to say that just reminds me of one last thing I might just finish off on.
Oh, go on.
Going back to Ben Habib.
Oh, God.
I didn't actually see him say this, but apparently he suggested that the Rwandan Navy might patrol the channel for us.
Rwanda has a navy?
Yeah, and on that
It's
note-
landlocked.
It is landlocked, but it is on Lake Victoria. You can get a boat. You can
I
get
was
a boat
just about to say, what lake would they be on? Because
Lake Victoria. And then they'd have to sail down the Nile, which would be a bit difficult because there's a bunch of cataracts and dams. They'd have
a bit of a problem with the big dam. Yep.
They have a big problem with the big dam. Yeah, the Aswan High Dam in particular. But they get a big crane and they could crane it over.
Do they not teach geography at private school? I mean, I'm getting a bit worried.
Well, you don't even have to know where Rwanda is. If you like, you would at least just look, and you can surely go, I don't know where it is. Shall I look at a map? I mean, that's what you do. It's like when you're a child, you're taught essentially two things to help teach yourself. One, when you see a word you don't know, get a dictionary. And two, when you hear about a place you don't know where it is, get your pissing atlas out.
Yeah.
Well, considering they've been obsessed with this place for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It's been on the
front cover.
They'd have
done some sort of like little check of where it is and what its relations
and what countries
are. And like,
it's only got it neighbours 4 countries. 4. That's it. It's not hard to remember. It's not like Germany. How many countries does Germany border, Cozy? It's about 10, isn't it? It's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot. There's a lot of countries bordered.
Probably from the Benelux. There's 3 in one, isn't there? So
and France, Switzerland, Austria, Poland.
I mean, Switzerland
Czechia.
itself borders a few.
Yeah, I mean the border with Switzerland.
Yeah, there's 10.
Yeah, it's there's that much border with Switzerland, but okay, let's count it.
Lake Constance.
Yeah.
You row across Lake Constance. Is that at the end of the Great Escape? I don't know, something like that. Anyway, let's go to Switzerland. Anyway, so thank you. Billy Kershaw says the African Queen. I've actually got the poster for the African Queen, Humphrey Bogart, Catherine Hepburn, opposite this camera. If I turn this camera around 180 degrees, you will see a poster for the African Queen. What a great film directed by John.
I think we should finish with a big shout out to people to go and use their democratic right to vote next week, including all EU citizens. If you are an EU citizen who's been living in the UK since before the 31st of December 2020, you have the right to vote in these elections. It might be the last time that you're allowed to vote because we don't know about the future yet, 100%. It's still being hammered out. So go and use your vote.
Yeah, absolutely. And head over to stopthetories.vote. I've just put the link in the chat so you can head over there, put your postcode in, and you can find out who to vote for, basically. You got the local elections, you got the PPC. PCC, Police and Crime Commissioner, and also they've got the mayoral contests around the country as well.
Metro
Liverpool,
mayors,
Manchester, London,
Liverpool City Region,
Tyne Tees, whatever it's called,
and the London Assembly as well.
Yes, and the London Assembly. But please don't vote for the Tories because they're scum. Right.
Remember your ID.
Let's stress that point.
Take all your ID.
Yes.
And look into your independence as well.
And don't believe the lies about if it's out of date but still looks like you, because some arsehole will say it doesn't.
Yeah. So,
but if it's all you've got, take it and hope for the best.
Yeah. Good luck. We'll be doing a special show on Thursday night as the results come in. So please join us for that, and it'll beat the BBC coverage, I reckon. Well, maybe the GB News coverage.
Yeah.
I don't think our production values are that
more
high.
in this room than what's GB News.
It's true. What are GB News even going to do? Because Reform UK don't even have that many candidates.
No. It's not going to be that interesting for them, is it?
They've got 323 candidates contested. They're contesting 323 out of the 2,655.
I bet they're all wrong uns as well.
They will inevitably be. I wonder, some of these may be the ones who are actually going to be the general election candidates. Maybe that's what they're doing. They're giving them a little trial. If you can get through this without being outed as a massive dickhead, then we'll let you stand
as long as you don't go on the internet or you're not dead, basically.
Yeah.
That means they keep ending up having trials.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks to everyone here at the Phil and Ollie and Rachel and Josh and Cozy. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thanks to everyone who dropped a super chat in there. Thank you so much. And we'll be back on Monday morning at 9:30 for Morning Brew. And until then, have a great weekend. And I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.